Hello everyone, welcome back to Beyond the Veil Tarot and Astrology. My name is Candice Marie. Thanks for joining me. Happy Friday, y'all. I hope you guys are doing well. It's Friday, so we're going to be doing live readings on the channel. Welcome. I'll let everybody kind of take a little bit of time to shuffle in here. Do me a favor, if you can see me, give me a thumbs up, like the stream. It really helps let other people on YouTube know that we are live and doing astrology readings this evening. So if you guys are new to my channel, welcome. I'm Candice. I'm a Western astrologer. I practice Western astrology, and also I provide tarot and clairvoyant readings. It's a bit of a triple threat, and every Friday night we meet here on my channel and we do live readings, and we alternate between tarot and astrology. This week we're going to be tackling transits, and also we've got a new moon in Sagittarius coming, which is particularly positive if you know how to work with it. So we're going to be doing readings. If you have questions and you would like to get a reading, you can do so by scanning the QR code. I think it's over here on that side. You scan the QR code, it's going to take you to my PayPal. You make a donation to my channel through PayPal for $55 US. Please put in your information in the memo. We need to see some of your info so that way we can give you a reading. I'm going to need to know your exact time, date, and location of birth. So please include the city, state, the AM or the PM, spell out the month for me, and let me know. Do you want to just know about how this new moon is affecting you? Do you have questions about a natal transit to your chart or a natal aspect? Let me know. We can answer any one question you'd like. We also do Sinistry sessions as well. And a big hello to everybody who's already in the chat. I'm just adding to my list. How's it going, guys? What's up, Dina? Diana, Jessica, Diana, Coco. DH is here, Family Farms, Emma. How's everybody doing? We've got Paula. I got you, Paula. I'll add you to my list. Amber says thumbs up. What's up, Jacob? Tuning in from Texas. We got another fellow Texan in the house. Hey, Sonia. Nice to see you guys. How's everybody doing? Okay, so there's a couple things. If this is the first time you're getting a reading, please be patient. We're going to be taking readings in the order that they were, donated upon. I will call out the next couple of people who are coming up for readings. So if you hear your name, it's me letting you know that your reading is coming up pretty soon. I'll usually announce 2 or 3 people before I get to your reading, so that way you know that you're on deck. You can ask questions about, like timing. You can ask questions about specifics in certain topics of your life. If you have questions about an aspect in your natal chart, we can do all of those things. And I'll pull up your chart live, and we're going to look at the transits in correlation with your chart. We're going to talk about what you got going on. What's up, Roxanne? David's here. I know, Sagittarius season. This is going to be a really interesting end of the month, man. All those mutable squares. Okay, so we have level 3 memberships who we take first. Those of you guys who are not aware, I do have memberships on my channel. You can join my memberships and support me as a full-time content creator on YouTube. There's 3 different levels. You can get in and just donate a couple bucks if you appreciate my work. If you want to get a shout out, you can get in on level 2, and level 3 is going to give you all of those things. Plus, you're going to get a reading with me once a month, which is a pretty sweet deal if you ask me. You'll be able to cash in one Friday a month and ask a question regarding tarot or astrology. If you guys like my content, make sure you're subscribed, smash the bell button below, and we will have last call probably in about 20-25 minutes. So we'll let you know when we're going to close down the queue. So if you know you want to get a reading, I recommend getting in. Right now it's going to be at least an hour, if not a little bit longer, because of the amount of people that we already have. Once again, I appreciate your patience. Also, just a couple things before we get going. I'm having a New Year's Day special. I'm going to be doing a live presentation on the astrology of 2024. So if you want to ring in the new year with me, I am doing super deep discounted tickets, $11.11. You can join the live stream, hang out with me on New Year's Day while we talk about the biggest themes and trends of 2024. We've got a North Node Chiron conjunction in Aries. We've got Jupiter conjunct Uranus, new eclipses rolling in Pisces. some new energies we're experiencing next year. And we can't forget Pluto entering into Aquarius. So I'm going to give a whole presentation on that. If you guys want to join me, please do. And if you're still sleeping or if you're with kids or you're hungover, you get the playback link so you'll be able to see it and watch it before it goes live on my channel. You guys have been super awesome. We've gotten so many people who have already joined that. It's really great to be able to put on those private presentations for people and have all of like the crowdfunding support to be able to do that. Wanted to make it super affordable so everybody can join in and be prepped for New Year's. We have all kinds of 2024 astrology calendars. We've got digital and printed versions as well. If you guys are looking for gifts or if you want to pick up a personal transit calendar for the year ahead that you can download directly into your cell phone, check out the links below in my description at beyondtheveiltarot.com. We have all kinds of goodies for the holidays. All right, thank you for letting me do my shameless plug. I have to do that, you know? All right, so here's who we've got in the queue so far for level 3. We have Diana, Jessica, Diana, Coco, Emma, and Paula. So I've got you guys. I appreciate it. And then we will go to the queue, which looks like we've got Kimberly, Christina, Gloria. Is it Tamara or Tamara? I want to make sure I'm saying that correctly, but I've got you guys, and that's who I have so far in the queue. Let me make sure. Yeah. Okay. So I've got you regulars. I already have your charts in. All right. What if we want a reading but want our info to be kept hidden from the chat for privacy concerns? Unfortunately, I think that's going to be challenging to do because we do pull up the chart on the live. So we can go full screen if you just want me to take a look at your chart. And not show like what you see now. We can just have me talking to you if that's what you want, but you do have to send the information in PayPal. So that way I can cast your chart. What's up, Jill from Western Australia? Gong is here. CG. Well, thank you. I appreciate it. I do. We're going to jump right into this with Diana, who is a level 3 member. Big thank you to everybody who's a member, and also those of you guys who are subscribers. If you are not subscribed, please do. We are less than 100 subscribers away from hitting 30,000. And my goal was to get to at least that point before the end of the year. So we're really close. I definitely think we're going to meet that goal. We're well on our way to hitting the next goal of 50K, hopefully sometime in the spring next year. All right, so we've got Diana, who is a Sagittarius rising, sun in Aries, and her moon is in the sign of Cancer. So let's take a look. Let's see what the question was. She says, hey, Candice Marie, can't make the live. It's 2 a.m. here, but I'd love to get a reading on the new moon, full moon cycle and how I can make the most of it. I'm manifesting a 180-degree life challenge with this new moon, and I'd like to know what the specific opportunities coming up or actions I should take would be helpful. All right, so I've definitely got you there. I've got you, MV. I'll add you. I will add you to my list before I forget. All right, so I love that. And if you guys haven't already seen the new moon in Sagittarius video, I really recommend taking a look at it because there's lots of goodies in that video talking about just how important this moon is for manifesting your butts off, because by the time it becomes a full moon next year, in the sign of Sagittarius, we are going to see some wild stuff happening. We're going to have a Jupiter-Venus conjunction at 29 degrees of Taurus. So it's pretty safe to say some of the risks that you take now will definitely pay off. All right, so it sounds like you're manifesting some big changes. Obviously, 180 degrees means that you're kind of flipping everything on its side, which is cool because you're definitely going to see this between now and the next full moon that we're going to be experiencing. Here's how I see it. I see a little bit of like a opportunity to break out of old emotional patterns for you and old relationship patterns for you. Now, the new moon is sitting technically in your first house of self. So for Sag rising, having Mars and the new moon in conjunction in the first house is like going after something, right? Fire is about taking action, and Jupiter energy is about being optimistic. You've got Mars and Jupiter in conjunction, so it's about being brave, or maybe being adventurous, or feeling like you're willing to kind of go after what you want. So there's a lot of energy behind this new moon cycle for you. Equally, it is trining a bunch of placements in Aries. So we've got some fire trines between the trine to your Mars and your Sun and Mercury in Aries. So fire, 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 action and new beginnings, action in what you're most passionate about, what's going to bring you the most happiness, and also travel, education, or philosophy. I love this new moon for you for focusing on what's actually going to bring you joy. I love it for breaking out of old home and emotional patterns. I feel like by the time you get to, 2 weeks from this point, when we have the next full moon, which will be in Cancer, you're coming into your lunar return. So I'm wondering, like, are you changing something about your home or your living situation? Is it just about letting go of the past and not allowing yourself to feel blocked by the past? This particular new moon is going to square your natal Saturn. So it seems like the challenge is about overcoming heavy emotional blocks or home or family limitations, and being able to really focus on, by the time you have that full moon, which will be very close, by the way, to your lunar return. So the lunar return that you're going to have 2 weeks from the new moon is going to be pretty big, because it's about a huge transformation, I think maybe relating to your home, your family, your emotions. So it's mirroring a lot of the same patterns. With this particular moon, I recommended people work with fire. So whether this is like setting intentions and then lighting a candle, if this is writing your intentions, folding it up and burning it, find some way to release that energy, especially because, especially you in particular, what you're initiating or what you're planning on taking action with, I feel like is going to move very quickly, right? And so sometimes fire is about purification. Sometimes it's about romance. Sometimes it's about creativity. I feel like for you, it could be all of these things. So for somebody who's really trying to initiate some kind of big change in your life right now, I feel like this is the time to do it. Obviously, when this becomes a full moon, what you're going to find is the full moon is going to be somewhere in the early degrees of Sagittarius. So it's going to be right along your ascendant. And it's going to have a Jupiter-Venus conjunction that's going to be in your 6th house. So it might be like more freedom in your daily routine, more opportunities for travel. Maybe there's a new job. Maybe you're self-employed. That Jupiter-Uranus conjunction for Sag risings is about being able to come out on top against the odds. So it could just be better health and better habits as well. It really depends. But do something with this energy. Work with fire, sit and manifest something. And I would say you're going to see just in the immediate next month, because, new moons, we can see, okay, what happens in 2 weeks as we get to the full moon. But really this energy is in play all the way until the next new moon, which we're going to be having in the sign of Capricorn. I like the Sagittarius new moon a little bit better personally, because the Capricorn moon is definitely promising that we're going to have to do some emotional kind of heavy lifting. I also like the fact that this new moon trines the North Node, so it's helping align with our destiny in the direction of where we're meant to be going. The only catch here, and I said this in my video, is that if we're not working with the trine, we can get stuck in the square, okay? So the new moon square your natal Saturn or your natal Venus is about the tendency to kind of get stuck in the past, and where maybe you get like too comfortable, or maybe you're reminiscing on the past too much, or you're unwilling to make changes in your home or your relationships. Equally, this is going to square Neptune. So if there is a sense of loss of faith, doubt, not having clarity, that's kind of expected. That this can be a new moon where we can feel overly optimistic. So I would also say it's about being aware that we don't have all of the answers yet. We don't know the full path forward. But if you're choosing something that's going to be an adventure or something that's going to initiate fresh new starts, that's definitely how you want to use this. And then watch what happens as we're coming into the new moon in Capricorn. And you will have given this a full 28 days to work with. And by this point in time, you'll see like, okay, I've got these new fresh starts. I've initiated these new habits. Maybe I'm more positive or action, taking more action, or just more enthusiastic about some of the changes that are happening. Okay. definitely circle back. Let me know how that plays out for you. I'd love to hear. Hopefully that gives you some insight. We've got, let's see, who else? Jessica, but I think I gotta pull her up. Okay, hold on. So those of you guys who are just tuning in, if you want to get a reading, I'm happy to read for you. Just scan the QR code somewhere right down here and they'll take you to my PayPal so you can make a donation for a reading. And don't forget to smack the like buttons, says David. Chiron's key. Okay, I'm adding you to my list. Okay, so Jessica says, cashing in general, 2590. All right, gotcha. All right, well, let's talk a little bit about this new moon and what's also going on with Mars, because Mars is your chart ruler. Mars and Pluto. Pluto's direct now, but maybe I guess the two things I would say is, you're a couple things. One is you're going to have a Mercury retrograde right in the path of your planetary ruler, Mars. So Mercury represents organization, communication, understanding, systems. And on the 13th, Mercury will turn retrograde. So that means it's going to retrograde through your second house, conjunct Uranus. So it's about some insight or sudden change to your resources or your values. And then it's going to conjunct your Mars, which is going to be something about your personal values, spending habits. It could also be for Scorpio rising, although you're a late degree Scorpio rising, it could be about some different or kind of shift or change in communication, changes with vehicles. That's important, guys. So you always have to look at your chart ruler. If there's a retrograde on it, you're going to feel the effects of it. In your chart, Mercury is connected to your Placidus 10th, which is your career and also responsibilities. So it looks like you're reviewing your relationship with money and how you think about resources and how you utilize them. You're going to see Mars start coming into a square pretty soon with Neptune. And definitely go watch my Mercury retrograde video. I talk about how Mercury and Mars come into conjunction throughout the Mercury retrograde. And when these two planets collide for a Scorpio rising chart, it can represent like money going missing or some financial change or, loss of something financial. Well, this is ruled, the dispositor is Jupiter, and you've got Jupiter in your 6th. So it looks to me like it's about cutting excess spending, trimming the fat in some of your expenses. Maybe it might mean that you're eating differently or something about your health or your habits change. It can mean that you're reevaluating what it is that you want, or maybe your relationship to others and whether or not you still value some kind of a connection. But that Mercury-Mars conjunction is definitely for a Scorpio rising going to be financial, and it's at 24. So it could be about money going missing, experiencing a loss. So knowing that you have a retrograde coming in the second house where you're already kind of reassessing something about your finances, it's really important that you're making some of those changes, because I feel like that's going to be just like so pivotal for, some of the shifts that are going on. It's interesting also because the new moon for you is actually going to be taking place in your first house. So even though you're going to hear as a Scorpio rising, like, oh, new moon is connected to your resources, by Placidus terms, not so much. It means that this is more about you reevaluating what your responsibility are or what your goals are. It'll actually be the next new moon that's going to be pivotal for manifesting. And this is going to be a new moon that's right on top of your natal Venus, which is all about your relationships. I don't necessarily think that it's about getting fired. No. I think this is about you just reevaluating, your spending habits. And this new moon's great because it's on top of your Venus. So it is bringing about new opportunities for relationships and more money. Equally, it's going to be conjunct your Saturn. So that's going to be about staying committed to your values. And then it's going to trine Uranus. So no, unless we see like a really hardcore square to your natal Mercury, which we're not seeing, if anything, like The sweet spot for me is Earth placements around 20, 21, 22 degrees, because the next 6 months, we're going to see Jupiter and Uranus trine this. So if anything, I think you might have like, you know, sporadic job change, but it could be like you have more work, or your scheduling changes, or there's like almost too much work, or there's, you know, potential changes going on with like, you know, your coworkers, and you're picking up more shifts, or you're putting in more time. So there might be more responsibilities going on there. Thinking of passing up a promotion. My boss has been on a mission to fire me. Yeah. Well, here's one thing that I would say is you don't have the typical aspects that I see when somebody gets fired. Usually ends of jobs deal more with like the 6th house or the 6th house lord. So I really feel like, you know, if Capricorn is time and Venus is money and the 2nd house is what you invest yourself in, I could definitely see you kind of throughout this retrograde going like, how much time am I investing myself into this job? Is it really worth what I'm getting paid? And so it's going to get you thinking about, you know, making changes in your value system. And maybe it is about kind of tightening up the belt with spending. So if you did decide you wanted to scale back a little bit, or if you wanted to try to find a new job, you could do that, right? But next year in April, when Jupiter and Uranus at 21, and it's trining your Venus and it's trining your Mercury, it's like pretty good in the work department. You may have more freedom or more spontaneity. From a Scorpio rising perspective, also it's good for relationships, especially if you're single. There can be, you know, meeting people suddenly, unexpectedly. There's new relationships and partnerships who can come in. You might meet people on the job because it's in your 6th house. And so all of that Capricorn is going to thrive. Man, like you, I have a Capricorn stellium. I got 4 placements plus Vesta, so 5 placements in Capricorn. And this retrograde has really got me kind of, I think, a little bit more optimistic. Maybe it's the trines to Jupiter. But I feel like this is about strategizing, right? Like, especially if you have your natal Mercury and Venus in Capricorn, there's a lot of like, okay, where is my money best spent? Where is my time best spent? Use this retrograde to really dig deep and ask yourself, like, is it aligning with, you know, the type of work that I want to do? If not, how can I change my relationship with resources and make some shifts so that way I am setting myself up to work on advancing and having more freedom, but also maybe more abundance. So watch for all of those Mars aspects. And I'm working on a video right now. I just recorded a video earlier today about the Jupiter-Uranus conjunction that's going to come out next week. But I'm working on a video about Pluto returning to 29 degrees. So we're going to feel over the next month or so, month or two, that Pluto at 29 is just really rather intense, and it's going to represent a critical turning point. For Scorpio rising charts, it's going to be about changes in their communication style or their thought process. Maybe it's about learning a new, like something new about a system, or maybe you're teaching yourself something. And Pluto can be very obsessive. So there can be something where you're like, okay, I'm obsessively like thinking too much about work and like it's not good for me and I need to change it. But it could also be that you become really obsessive about learning something new, or you pick up a book that kind of, you know, strikes up a new hobby. So it depends. But that sextile to your sun is pretty nice. That's really empowering you, encouraging you to embrace change. And boy, there is a lot of it next year with your Jupiter-Uranus transit. So you have a lot to look forward to. Hopefully that gives you some food for thought and is helpful in navigating this month. We've got Diana, Coco, Emma. You guys are all next. Let me catch up in the chat. Sorry, guys. Lisa. I'll pull up your info in just a bit when I get to you. What's up, Wendy? No worries. Happy birthday, Saggies, says Takia. Thank you. Danielle, you might have gotten in just on time. Okay, cool. What's up, Gibson? And if you guys didn't send your info, I'll come back around to it when I do the reading. Don't worry. All right, let's pull up Deanna's chart. What's up, girl? Are you in the midst of your travels? I would assume so. Let's see, where are you? Here we go. Another level 3 cashing in. All right, so let's see what she says here. There we go. Hey, Candace, cashing in. What does the new moon have in store for me? I'm excited. What intention should I set around love and new business? Thinking about taking a Reiki course. Okay. Gotcha. Back in Inglewood. What's up, no one? Hey, Gloria. All right, so let's talk new moon in Sagittarius. Well, in the back of my mind, I look at things in two different ways. I'm going to look at it from the perspective of the sun, but I'm also going to look at it from the perspective of the rising sign. And the reason why I say that is, well, the sun rules your chart. So you've got this new moon that's setting up. It's going to be at 20 degrees. So it's going to be right on the cusp here of your 5th house. But technically, it's going to be in your 5th house. Let me show you. There we go. And it's going to be in a trine exactly to your ascendant. And within 2.5-ish degrees to the north node. So we've got a fire trine. From the perspective of Capricorn, to me, it seems like there's this sense of believing in something, right? Sag is very much connected to belief and travel and understanding and the higher mind, but 12th house to your sun represents like needing to dig deep on a spiritual level. So digging deep spiritually when it comes to 5th house, new hobbies, creative endeavors, self-expression, self-employment. I think makes sense. 12th house can represent healing. The moon represents your 12th house. So you've kind of got a double dose of like, what can I be doing creatively? Maybe to not only maybe move energy around, because that's definitely what this is doing, but also it's right on top of your Mercury. So it's like, well, I would invest in something if it means that, it could be another tool in my toolbox and it's something that I can do with my hands. Mercury is your hands, heat is Sagittarius. So, if anybody who practices Reiki, they'll tell you Reiki hands are a real thing. Your hands get really hot when you're doing that. So I could definitely see that being an interest for you. I feel like it's something that's also setting you up to be able to do more of this work by the time you get into the spring of 2024. Because by the time you've kind of gotten into the habit of doing it, maybe you'll find that somewhere around the eclipses, there is like a graduation or moving on to another level or completing something maybe with like a teacher or a mentor. And yeah, I like that. I think the other thing is the fact that it's in harmony with your ascendant means it's encouraging you to play, have romance, create, and really like tap into new ways that you can express your energies creatively. Is it good for travel in Sag trine the North Node? For sure. I also think of like the Mercury trine Jupiter at the same time too. So it's like helping you develop a skill that maybe you can travel and you can do in other places, or it allows you to be able to say, hey, maybe I'll go and teach workshops at some point, or, I can see clients while I'm traveling. That's the other way that I look at it. But being on the cusp of the 5th house means that something is getting ready to be born. Something's getting ready to emerge, all ruled by Jupiter. Jupiter is in the 9th. So it says that it's about some kind of growth in regards to your education. It could also be some kind of growth because Jupiter is technically in your whole sign 10th in regards to your career. So you're like, I'm learning something new that's going to really help me expand my career. Like Jupiter Uranus is very working with energy, doing that type of work out in the world in a very practical kind of stable way. Maybe you'll integrate more of like crystals and stones. So I think maybe you'll learn more about that, and maybe like some gridding. That would also be really cool. I really feel like that's a good move for you. And, I go back and forth through and through when it comes to transits. I feel like Placidus is much more accurate, but when I think of like the whole sign version of your chart, and I think of like your sun and your Venus being connected to your whole sign 6, this is a chart that's like, I want to make a business out of helping people, out of healing people, out of teaching people more about self-love and, sacrifice and service. And so what's cool is like, Jupiter and Chiron are kind of linking up this year saying, hey, I'm feeling like I want to go and learn new techniques. I need to go and find teachers and mentors who can help me do this. And it's trining that stuff that's in your whole sign 6th house. So it's opening the door to doing some kind of work and finding some stable ground and like learning how to do it properly so you feel, that you can go and do that out in the world. So yeah, to me, it makes perfect sense. The only thing that I would say is obviously the challenge is that, like I said, you're going to fall into one of two camps, the trines to the North Node, that's like, I'm going to make something happen, or the squares to Neptune, which can be like doubt city. So I feel like Neptune being in the 8th house can represent, well, am I going to be able to do this? Could I make money from this? Like, is it going to be a good investment? And I would say, yes, I do feel like in your situation, it is. And the primary reason why I say that is because you're starting to see now Venus coming into the 4th house, and it's going to start opposing Uranus. So you're going to realize that things are changing on the home front. Things are going to be shifting with your home base. So you're not going to be basing where you're working or making money off of your home. So you're starting to kind of open up a little bit more and go, okay, what other things could I do that's going to allow me to be able to have, a business that can continue if I'm not consistently in the home. And Jupiter and Uranus will go into your 10th house next year. And I feel like you may find opportunities doing some like retreat work. So if you're already traveling, you have the eclipses in the 9th house, why not like make a party out of it? Like might as well make community and connect with people and try to find ways to be able to kind of build up your brand and, do it in some other places. Anyway, I hope that that's helpful for you. Readings are now closed, my friends. So if you got in, I will call your name, don't worry. We've got Coco, Emma, Paula, MV, Chiron's Key. Am I missing any level 3 people? And let's see who else popped in on the end here so I can let you know who else I have. If you guys haven't already, give me a thumbs up if you can see me. I appreciate it. Looks like we got, let's see, Liz jumped in there, Wendy, Herbalife, and DCJ. I got all of you guys. We got you in there. All right, so who do we got next? We've got Coco, Emma, and then Paula. Coco, it's your birthday, or you just had it, right? Happy belated. Let's see, what did Coco say? Hey Candace, I'm cashing in. Is that your solar return? I want to make sure this is the right info. This is right? January 2nd. Why do I have you as the 1st? January 2nd. There you go. All right, just let me know if this is correct. What does this new moon have in store for me? I'm excited. What intention should... Oops, wrong person. Coco, my solar return was December 1st. Okay, so maybe that's what I was looking at. What's in store for me in regards to finding a new place to live, money, and romantic love? Okay, sorry. So I changed it. You are the 1st. I'm looking at the wrong person. There we go. In regards to finding a new place to live, money, romantic love, especially romantic love. P.S. I'm bullying my property management company into settling. I have to move quickly, but have a big check coming. All right, let's take a look. Let's see. Okay, cool. I got you. All right, so let's see. So what kind of piques my interest? Well, I mean... The reason why there's some potential move stuff coming is because this new moon is going to be pretty much in conjunction to your Mercury, okay? So you have Mercury in Sag, can be a more difficult place to have that because it's about like the bigger picture. And in the 9th house, also culture, travel, philosophy, that's your bag. But something's going to happen right after this new moon. When Mars comes into conjunction with Mercury, that's probably when you're going to like make your demands about being like, this is what I want. Because Mars rules your whole sign, second house of money that you fight for. Ninth house is going to be about your legal right. And it's going to be a back and forth that you're having with like authority figures, basically. What's interesting about this is that your Mercury is in the path of the retrograde. So what you're going to find is that there is a back and forth, almost like a negotiation, where it's like you ask for one thing, they give you this, you kind of rebuttal, and then they say, okay, I'll give you this or I'll give you that. So there's going to be a back and forth. So I would look at what happened during your first return. So that was, you're only having one because it's going to go retrograde to 21, but it'll go retrograde to 22, but it'll be conjunct. So look at what was happening like the 23rd, 24th, 25th of November. What conversations were you having? Likely it was a bit kind of confusing, or maybe there's a sense of like pausing and waiting for a response because Mercury rules other people in your home. And Mercury square Neptune can be a whole lot of like somebody states what they want and then you're the other party's like playing hardball. Anyway, the Mercury-Neptune square makes me feel like it's going to be hard to trust that people are going to actually do what they're telling you they're going to do. So watch what happens when, when Mars hits 20 degrees. So that's going to be around December 22nd. I think that's going to be about taking action and being like, yeah, pay me. I also think when Mercury retrogrades back into conjunction with your natal Mercury, because it'll be like a week or so that Mercury is going to sit at 22 degrees, that's going to be some really, really strong energy about negotiating something with your home or your living situation, but it's still in a square to Neptune. And the general consensus that I have had for people who are Pisces risings are like feeling victimized, right? Because Neptune can be the victim, right? And then all this Mars, Mercury energy is people who are kind of bullying and harassing. Unfortunately, the lower octave of these energies is like, we're going to see more conflict in regards to discrimination, especially against people who are facing homelessness, Neptune, mental health issues, medical health issues. We're going to see like culture clash. We're going to see people being racist. I mean, it's going to be kind of nasty towards the end of the month. So I'm looking at that Neptune and I'm like, okay, it's about not wanting to identify as a victim, but also being very clear about being like, you're not going to put me out. Because if you're trying to do this and you're trying to bully me and you're trying to scare me into just, taking something and leaving, like it's being like, I know my rights. So something about the retrograde might mean that you're actually meeting with an attorney, or you're going and consulting with somebody and getting some information about what your rights are and whether or not, you're qualified or owed something more, or if they are discriminating against you. These things can definitely come up. In the midst of all this, the retrograde is also like in the same sign as your moon. So it can be about you going like, well, how bad do I want to stay here? Do I really want to stay this long? Is there somebody else that I go and stay with, or family, or a female friend to help me kind of get through this time? Because you might feel like you're overstaying your welcome. Even if they say, okay, we'll pay you just to go away and you don't have to go away for X amount of time. Neptune is going to continue to square your midheaven and also your IC, which means when it comes to where you're going with work and where you're living, there's still some questions. And there's going to be this feeling like things are kind of in flux really for the better part of the next 2 years until Saturn and Neptune start to separate. Next year, Jupiter will go into your 4th house. So you might find that you're considering going back and forth between 2 places, or there is a new place that emerges, but it's maybe temporary. So I would take everything into consideration, that if you're going to go, really have a plan. And if you're having to move and potentially being putting in a position where now you're paying more in rent, I would say that would factor into what they're going to have to pay you. So it's one thing to get a big check, right? Obviously, I think anybody would want that. But when you start to factor in cost of moving and how much more rents are going to be and everything else, the question is how much are they really putting you out? And is it really worth taking the money and leaving if it's going to put you in a situation that it might be kind of tight within the next year? So that retrograde might be about talking to an attorney, right? I'm not going to tell you what to do, but just some food for thought. And, you know, because Mercury rules home and relationships, it seems as if as Mercury is going retrograde on your midheaven conjunct Mars, you're saying, well, what do I or do not want to be participating in professionally? Who do I want to work with or for? Where am I making a change? What relationships do I want to be in publicly? And where am I making a change or making a cut? I think even Sagittarius risings, you know, or Sag suns or risings are dealing with Saturn and Neptune. So it's home related issues. And for the next 2 years, I think it's just about kind of reminding that home is a state of mind. It's wherever you are. It's not necessarily a place or a person or a specific address. And make sure that you're getting your worth if you're going to be making some of the changes that you're going to be making with your living situation. And yeah, I mean, I think, you know, Saturn's going to come in, it's going to square your sun here pretty soon. So be mindful of that. That's definitely going to bring some changes potentially to health and your work-related things. So there's something that's going to be going on here where, let's see what you say. Already closed with them and my attorney, I'm just waiting for the check. Okay, so that particular conjunction, do you know how much they're taking out of the cut? Let me put it this way. The Mercury-Mars conjunction square Neptune is going to represent something that you didn't see. So whether it's extra cost, if it's extra fees, if it's something that goes missing, if there's a delay in getting something, just watch for that the end of December. And if you're walking away from that and you're happy to be done with it, great. But your status in general, especially when it comes to work or your relationships, is all up for reevaluation pretty much until the middle part of January, as we start moving out of the retrograde shadow. Hopefully that's helpful. All right, so we've got Emma, Paula, and MV. All right, so for Emma, let's see. Hey Candace, I hope you're amazing. Can I get my monthly? What's coming up around new connections, people, and love? Awesome, Coco. I hope the move is smooth for you then. Just make sure that everything is clear, and if you need something itemized, make sure you get it because some of the details might be missing. All right, so let's see. So in terms of what is shaking for you, Emma, we've got you here as a Capricorn rising, a sun in Pisces, and your moon's in Scorpio. Ooh, look at this retrograde right on your ascendant. Have you noticed the shift over the last week or so because Mercury's in shadow on your ascendant in regards to changes with your thought process, changes in regards to your health? Are you thinking about having a conversation with somebody and holding back a little bit? From the perspective of Pisces, this is about working on your goals or working on, you know, your connection with other people. And then for a Capricorn rising, Mercury's connection traditionally to health as well as your beliefs, that retrograde can mean that you feel a little tongue-tied. So there can be a sense of kind of, you know, wavering and going back and forth with, I want this, I don't want this, I want to talk to this person, I don't want to talk to this person. And I would really recommend with the trines to Jupiter that everything really comes down to what is going to make me feel the happiest. What is going to give me the most opportunity for growth, for romance, for creativity, self-expression. So there can be this sense of like I said, yeah, things kind of going back and forth with the retrograde. I'm also noticing that you're going to be having, let's see, Neptune coming in conjunction with your sun, Saturn's coming into conjunction with Venus. So that's another indication of changes that's going on with health habits and routine, especially when it comes to like what you're investing your time or energy into. This can be about making time for better health or better habits. And in terms of connecting with other people, that's really going to be the moon. And now Saturn is awake, your chart ruler, and it's still trining your Mars, but it's moving away from that. So something that I notice is the next moon, is going to be right along your descendant, okay? So December 26, 2023, there's a full moon here. That is going to be in the 7th house, whole sign. It's on the cusp. And it's going to be conjunct your Mars. So this can be about opportunities for, romantic connection, meeting with other people. The moon's in its home sign, and we're going to be seeing trines to Saturn and Venus. So I'm really liking who you're connecting with, maybe the week revolving around this full moon. It can mean that the moon is indicating that there is some, meeting of another person, connecting to another person, talking to other people. We've got Saturn, which rules you, and the moon, which rules partners, trining in harmony. So I don't know what you're doing Christmas through let's say maybe the 30th. But this whole time period is talking more about your communication and connection with other people. The 3rd house can be neighbors, it can be siblings, it can be also, people who you're meeting in your local community. But Saturn connecting with Venus makes me feel like maybe you've got a female friend or a neighbor or somebody who's hey, let's go out and meet some of my friends, or come to this party or this get together. Because Venus rules your 11th house. So there may be opportunities to socialize and meet people that's coming from other people. And also when you have full moons on the angular houses, this also makes things happen. So there can be a sense with the squares that are taking place, that it's trying to kind of bring you into connection with other people. You'll notice just over the next year or two, as the South Node keeps going through Libra and the North Node keeps going through Aries, they're forming a square to your descendant. So it's kind of saying there needs to be changes in terms of the emotional connection to people. And that's also helping you really reflect on what your long-term goals, Capricorn, are when it comes to maybe expressing yourself, being with other people, that kind of stuff. And you still have some eclipses coming in the spring. So definitely I feel like romance is on the way. We just generally need to see an outer planet that's making an aspect to your 7th house Lord. And Saturn is trining it. However, you're also coming into Pluto, which is going to be squaring it over the next 2 years. And I think this is really going to be more about where you're realizing, because, you've got Moon conjunct Uranus in the 11th house, that you're I don't want to be in complicated situations with people. I don't want situationships. There is a sense of also learning to define who you are outside of relationships and social groups as well. So I think that that's going to be more about being if I'm single, I'm single, but if I meet somebody that I'm really looking for something. And Moon square Pluto definitely brings some emotional entanglement sometimes, some changes with your home or your living situation. And I would say that to you anyway, because you have Saturn and Neptune heading for your 4th house. So it does seem as if there is going to be some big changes going on revolving around your home life and how you feel about your private space. But in the background of all of this, I think that the transits that are happening that are going to be positive for your moon can be good as well. So the Pluto square is going to happen pretty much on and off all next year. But the Saturn trine is still going to be kind of felt for the next month. So you have an opportunity to get out and meet some people. Also, something I keep thinking about is this transit of planets that are going to go through Capricorn. You're going to see Mercury and Mars and Venus all go through Capricorn and start trining your 5th house placements. So the second half of January is also a decent time as well. Maybe get into the habit of noticing when the moon is in Capricorn or when the moon is in Cancer, because that's going to be triggering things revolving around relationships and whether or not you're going to be feeling like you want to connect with people or if you're more likely to meet people. And from the perspective of Pisces, it won't be next year, but it'll be in the spring of 25. We'll see eclipses in Virgo, which is also big for relationships. So I think right now it's about breaking free of complicated situationships and not getting yourself involved in that if you can help it, and holding space for new people to kind of come in. Definitely go and learn about transit Pluto square your moon. I know you didn't ask about that, but I feel like that's significant because the moon rules your relationships. And you're going to start feeling it in March, but it looks like April through August of next year, you're going to have that square. And I really feel like it's about changes in self-esteem and self-worth, whether or not you feel like you're involved in a group or a romantic relationship, and learning not to kind of hold on to that too tightly. the next few years, Saturn and Neptune are going to be dancing on your sun, which means there is a sense of you really learning to appreciate and enjoy your alone time. And that doesn't mean you cannot have relationships, because it's still trining Saturn, but it means that it's like you like peace and tranquility, and you're going to be very particular about who you're letting into your space. And if people are coming and spending time with you, it's people who are not bringing you drama, or they're not draining you, or it's not people who are wanting to use you for resources. So you're going to be very selective about who you let into your personal space the whole next year. Okay. Hopefully that's helpful for you, Emma. Thanks for being a member. I appreciate it. We have Paula, MV, and then Chiron's key. So let's see. Paula. What's up, Paula? Are you still here? I'm sure you are, but just in case, I gotta ask. And this is my December 9th, Paula, right? Yeah. Okay, I thought so. Happy almost birthday, girl. It's my birthday tomorrow. I had my surgery on the 17th, sore but feel good. What's up for me? Loving my job again. When will I win the big lottery? Should I get a lawyer? When should I get a lawyer? That's hilarious. Well, technically you're not married, so you're in the clear. Well, I'm glad to hear that you had your surgery, that went well. That's awesome. Really for you, let's see, what is your annual perfection this year? You're in a Venus year. Okay, so Venus Libra year. So really, Venus transits are going to be really important for you. Okay, so when you're in an annual perfection year 5, we take into consideration what planets are in your 5th house and what your 5th house lord is. So by whole sign, you have Uranus there, which means like unexpected opportunities, taking chances, having fun, especially with partners. Venus is the ruler, and it's in the 6th house, also conjunct Mars. So to me, it looks like this is going to be a year where you're like, health changes and downtime teaches you a lot about how you want to spend time when you are feeling better. There can also be a sense of wanting to learn new skills or be developing new things when it comes to hobbies and techniques. Having fun, 5th house at work, right? And your ruler is there, totally makes sense. So maybe you are having like a role where you're feeling better and you're loving work. But you want to be listening for Venus transits, because that's when you're going to see the most stuff that's going to be happening. So pretty soon here, we're going to have Venus in opposition to Uranus. So that might rock a little bit. Let's say like the 19th of December through around about the 22nd of December. You're going to have your 5th house lord of romance and creativity in the 6th house. So you're going to be feeling like you want to have more fun. You want to make time for the things you love. And the opposition to Uranus is going to be a little feisty. So there can be some issues where you've got some people calling in sick to work, or coming in late, or not showing up. And maybe some challenges with a woman at work. On the flip side, Venus will be conjunct your Jupiter. So I feel like it's going to be you going like, I feel optimistic about the services that I'm able to give, or what I'm working on, or feeling like your health is actually rebounding. I guess that's the positive. But watch for some of the wild fluctuations that can happen on the 27th, roundabout there. The other thing that comes to mind for me also is going to be when you have Venus come into conjunction with Pluto, and it makes me feel like in mid-February you might be taking classes or courses. Also, there's a possibility that you're going on some kind of trip, or you're traveling for fun, or maybe you're taking some kind of course and you're learning something. And then in the spring, we're going to have an eclipse that is going to be in your whole sign 5th house, and the 5th house is about children. So it's possible that there's big action going on revolving around your kiddos. But this eclipse is going to be a full moon lunar eclipse ruled by Venus, and Venus is conjunct Saturn. So I have a feeling this is when you're committing, right, Saturn, to some of your long-term goals when it comes to your professional work, especially if it's about arts, sweets, and design. That's very Venus-Saturn in the 10th. So yeah, make a note of that particular eclipse. I think that's going to be a big one. Obviously, also, the sun's going to be conjunct your Chiron, so it looks like you're finally feeling like you're healing wounds revolving around your career endeavors. You know, maybe you're feeling like you're finally working through issues of whether or not you thought you could do it on your own, and maybe you're getting ready to complete something, but that's smack dab on your midheaven. So there's something there that's about being like, this is what I'm leveling up for. This is what I'm committing to. I'm identifying differently out in the world. And my goodness, what a strong energy is. It squares your sun. So from the perspective of Sagittarius, it's going to be about probably not getting along with male coworkers or bosses, feeling like you need some space from a relationship and you need to forge your own way forward in your professional life. I could also see this as like the job of being mom, you know, because it's 4 houses away from your sun. So it's about your commitment to parenting and family and you know, responsibility with these things as well. It sounds to me like you're starting to feel that Jupiter is getting ready to go direct. At the end of the month, Jupiter will go direct in Taurus, and it's going to come into conjunction with your moon and your Juno and your Saturn. So that tells me that this is going to be about like the commitment maybe that you're having to yourself spiritually, some kind of work you're doing behind the scenes or privately. Maybe with Jupiter and Uranus on your Juno, there's like an elopement that's taking place in the spring, or you're talking about doing this in the late spring. That would not surprise me. But yeah, really like the list goes on and on. I think look at the downtime that you're having right now and ask yourself, like, do I like this? How does this feel? Is it giving me time to feel more inspired? Not only am I kind of resting and rebounding, but I'm able to make time for the things that I love. And it's meant to kind of give you that sense of awareness so you can be working towards making these changes come, I think, the eclipses that you're going to experience in the spring. Listen for Venus transits. So like when Venus opposes Uranus soon, when Venus conjuncts Pluto, when Venus goes into its exaltment in Pisces, and then eventually we're going to see Venus conjunct Jupiter. Oh my goodness. So that's going to be a real opportunity to kind of like go big or go home, I think, with some of your professional sweets business, right? 12th house can be about where you're taking like customers or clients maybe, and you're maybe playing around with the idea of being able to like ship stuff. Anyway, I hope that's helpful. I hope you have a happy birthday, and it's a good year. Lots of shifts when you go into the 5th house here. Definitely like things kind of, they lighten up a little bit more, you know? All right, so we've got MV. And then after MV, we will have Chiron's key. Was there any others? I want to make sure I didn't miss anybody else who got in before we closed. I think that's everybody. So after that, we'll have Kimberly, Christina, Gloria, Tamara, Liz, Wendy, Herbalife, and DC, and Astrid, Leah, and Marina. Got a couple people that snuck in there. Okay, cool. You're very welcome. Okay, so let's see, MV. Good evening. I'd like to take advantage of my monthly question. Did you have a particular question? Let me know. At some point, I will take a break and input some of these other charts, so we'll be coming up on that in not too long. Oh, okay, I got you, Indy. So come back around and I'll be able to get you back in there, but I will add you to my list for the level 3. Thanks for joining. I appreciate it. Yep, I got you. You guys snuck in there. All right, so let me know, MV, if you have a particular question. And then we'll take Chiron's key and Indy. So MV is September 14th, 89, Cancer rising, moon in Pisces, sun in Virgo. And in the back of my mind, I keep thinking about this upcoming Saturn moon transit that you're getting ready to wrap. So this has been an important period for you. Saturn has been in conjunction to your moon, which is your chart ruler, which is the emotional part of the chart. It's the private life, the home, the sensitivity, the roots, like the past. And the moon is in the 8th house, which is about deep transformation, psychological changes. Sometimes it's about grief, sometimes it's about loss. And Saturn represents your karmic relationships to other people. So think back to what was happening like June, July, August, okay? As Saturn was retrograding over your moon, you were dealing with some karmic matters here where there was almost like this caterpillar turning into a cocoon, getting ready to transform vibe. And Saturn's coming back over that part of your chart right now. So you're going to see this the second half of January. Saturn will hit your moon again. So I would say just be on the lookout for that. Obviously, heavier moods can kind of come with this transit. But it seems to me like it's completing a process. And what I can't get over is right when Saturn is leaving your moon, and it will not come back for another 29 years, so you'll have a break in that sense. Right when that happens, you have the Sun and Pluto coming into conjunction. Saturn is the traditional ruler of Aquarius. So I didn't even realize that until just now, that the Saturn-Pluto conjunction is right when Saturn is kind of coming out of its shadow, because that's right about where it started turning retrograde. So there's some completion or maybe like a graduation of like karma and relationships, and there is some kind of renewal that's going to be happening with relationships to other people. Usually when Saturn leaves a house, he leaves a gift. So that's the other thing, is that you've had Saturn in the 8th house where there's been a lot of reflecting on what you don't have or what you had to let go of, or having limitations in connection to other people. So now that Saturn's going to leave that house, I feel like financial matters, karmic matters, intimacy issues, psychological issues, things can kind of lighten up a little bit. And then you're kind of cruising into what will be about 1.5 years of Saturn in opposition to your sun. So when I look at Saturn in the 8th house and it's been in conjunct to North Node and the moon, it's kind of telling me that you've been like learning to deal with less, or you've been learning to have less, or you've been making, sacrifices, maybe emotionally, maybe spiritually, I don't know. And that has been in preparation, I think, for when Saturn starts opposing your sun and Mars. So, just be prepared for closing chapters, I think, in relationships and themes revolving around the 8th house. And then 2, the other thing that kind of comes to mind for me is that you happen to be one of these people with a Capricorn stellium. Mercury is just tearing through. It's going retrograde from 8 all the way to 22 of Sag. So you've got Mercury, which rules the mind, travel, and communication. And your deep subconscious, it's retrograding through your 6th house. So much of this retrograde period is about productivity, letting go of bad habits, working through mental blocks, getting back onto a schedule, making changes maybe to work and productivity. And you want to be really working with this, because this particular retrograde is going to be trining Jupiter. So it can really open up the door for new relationship to, your coworkers. It can open up the door to new professional opportunities. You might find that it does promote some kind of career growth, or collaborating or connecting with people who help kind of put you in a place where you're getting more recognition for the work that you're doing. Obviously taking care of health whenever you have Saturn on your ascendant lord, but then that factor with a Mercury retrograde. I think a lot of Capricorn stelliums they're doing what they do. They work too much. They're working too hard. And Saturn, Neptune in the 6th house can be strange and mysterious things revolving around health or ailments. So I would be very cautious knowing that this retrograde is happening, or it can be showing you where you can be doing too much. So you can be more predisposed to kind of having some health stuff come up. So you want to be on top of your health and your health habits at this time. really look for when Mercury's back in Sag and it's trining the North Node, that this is about being more optimistic about healthier habits and routines, and that it's going to allow you to be more self-sufficient, independent, more capable, stronger going into this next year. So this is where we start to kind of get all of our ducks in a row. I've said this on several of my videos, you know, the new moon in Sagittarius is like, that's the new moon. You guys want to set your intentions for New Year's, okay? If you want to do the New Year's thing, the New Year's new you, doing it on the 1st ain't going to work. Mercury's going direct and it squares Neptune. So I have this feeling that everybody's going to be like, I'm not drinking, and it's going to like last like probably like a couple of days or a week or so, because the square to Neptune is like, I don't need it. And then people are going to realize that they actually go back to those patterns. Set your New Year's intentions on the new moon in Sag, especially you, because it's going to be trining stuff that you got going on basically in your 10th house, and it's going to be about, I think, having healthier habits. Anyway, I hope that's helpful for you, MV. Thank you for being a level 3. I appreciate your support. All right, so let me plug in Chiron's key. Let's see, where did I see that? There we go. Okay, so your name is Jessie, June 11th, 84. All right, I know your name is Jessie, but I got you under Chiron's key. Wanting to know about my transits aspects to look out for. Well, looks like we got you here June 11th, 1984, 4:20 p.m. Want to double check because of this Mercury shadow. Okay, cool. Libra rising, 28 degrees. Wow, Pluto retrograde conjunct your ascendant, and your moon's in Sag and your sun is conjunct Venus in Gemini. I have a client whose chart looks very eerily similar to this, and she's a dominatrix. Look at that 8th house stallion. She is a dominatrix. I'm not saying that's what you do, but definitely some interesting energy with that sexy Pluto on your ascendant retrograde and Venus conjunct the sun. What comes up for me, I think a few things. Probably one of the bigger ones is the fact that, you know, you have Pluto that is still kind of in a square with your ascendant and your descendant right now. So Capricorn transits for you can be tricky because it looks like you have Capricorn intercepted in your 3rd. And so this is something you guys don't see with whole sign houses. Interceptions are when a house can, you know, swallow up a whole sign. So you notice the 3rd house starts with Sagittarius and the 4th house starts with Aquarius. So Capricorn's like MIA. So that means that planets in Capricorn can be both helping or hindering. It's like a secret little sweet pot, especially with Jupiter being there. And then we take into consideration the themes of Capricorn and Cancer, which is like home and family or work and parenting stuff. Anyway, the reason why I'm bringing this up is because, you know, Pluto is hitting that 28 degrees and it's squaring things right now. Okay. So Pluto square the ascendant means that there's some kind of pressure to change something or transform something about, you know, the way that you live or how you live, your home life, your family. And it does kind of make you feel like you're kind of in a bit of like a flex, like there's a change that's going on in regards to the balance of relationship to yourself. It happens to also be your Pluto square Pluto. And then this is also on the other side squaring your descendant. So it's almost like things have to dramatically change, transform, or be reborn in the home base, or in your case, I think in your mind, to better relate to yourself and also better relate to other people. On the back end of this, I think about also how Jupiter, which is in your house of relationships right now, is opposing Saturn and Mars. So I'm going to go on a limb here. I feel like it can be where you're getting a lot of feedback from other people. It can be, you know, Jupiter in your 7th house, you're getting feedback from partners, you're getting feedback from coaches, you're getting feedback from collaborators. It could be siblings, because that rules your third house, about, you know, who you are as a person and what you can do to, you know, better open up, because you got Saturn, Pluto, and Mars in your first house. So you're a Gemini, and you're very much a Gemini, but like you're a Gemini that is secretly a Scorpio on the inside. Pluto on the ascendant and a stellium with the North Node in the 8th. You're here to learn how to change and transform. So what's happening right now is I think that there's a lot of interaction with other people who are saying like, hey, like open up, let your guard down, you know, you can let your armor down, put it down. You don't need to be on the attack. You don't need to be on the defense. And people are trying to connect to you or reach out to you to help you grow, right? It can be also to give you some kind of feedback. It can also be relationships that can be brewing at a distance. And that can also be putting the pressure on, you know, potential changes on the home front as well. In this next year, you're going to see, you know, Jupiter go into Gemini. And for all Geminis, it's going to represent a significant shift and new optimistic beginnings, more travel, you know, learning something new, being more positive. But I think that it's going to be interesting because, and this is where I think you're more like a Scorpio, I believe houses trump signs. That's just my opinion. That I believe that the sign is how the energy is expressed. The place of the house is where you're going to see the action. So Jupiter is going to go into the 8th house and it's going to say, well, there's more abundance coming your way. There's significant change coming your way. There's all these new beginnings, but they're going to come from some kind of significant end. And I feel like Jupiter represents your 3rd house, which could be talk therapy. So it might mean that you have a breakthrough in, you know, going to therapy, you're working with a trauma coach, or through journaling, or you learn more about intimacy. And there is something that shifts very much about opening yourself up, but also it can come with the ending of other things as well. So next year, there's so many opportunities for new beginnings, and that's like a very strong kind of Pluto energy in the 8th house. That factored in with a Pluto square, I think you're starting to kind of really open up and identify and go, why am I on the defense? I don't have to carry this armor. The armor is heavy. Your South Node is conjunct the moon with Uranus. So it also seems like there could have been a lot of uprooting when you were a kid, moving around a lot, not always feeling stable or safe or secure, or some sense of like being or feeling rejected by your home, your mom, your roots. And then you, on top of that, you were born on a full moon with Chiron on the North Node. So there's something there that's like, oh, things are not safe. I'm a fighter, got to protect my own, you know, and like you have learned how to be kind of scrappy, right? And so what's going to happen is I think relationships really can grow a lot, and there can be a real amazing opportunity for development of intimacy and vulnerability, as long as you're willing to kind of embrace some of that and finally kind of clear out the gunk with your Pluto square Pluto. Gotta love that Pluto at 29 degrees. People in the 70s, born into the early 80s with that late degree Pluto, working through karma in relationships. That's really what this is about. When planets hit 29 degrees, obviously that's like a karmic turning point where we have to really work through some stuff. So maybe you're learning to kind of like channel that inner 8th house energy as less intense, more transformative, and going deep and like having deep, powerful conversations, and like learning how to maybe open that up as a way of being able to also, you know, bring in resources, because that means that you can be somebody who can have access to helping other people or helping people through crisis or talking about crisis or issues, or maybe you write something or share something that can be very lucrative. And I think it's about honestly like loving and letting go, because so much of your astrology seems to be about the experiences that you've had, where you had a relationship or a financial situation or something up until a certain point and then it died. And then it was like, okay, it died, but then something new showed up. And you should have seen this experience a lot throughout your life, to where it's meant to be kind of teaching you, and it may play a role in some kind of work that you end up doing. Anyway, I hope that resonates and gives you some like insight into that. What such a cool chart that you have. So intense. Obviously, Chiron's key, right? 8th house Scorpio placements are about locks, by the way. It's about locks and things that can be open, and like passwords and other things. So that's kind of cool that you've got some of that there. Let's see, who else did I have here? And we've got Indy. Let me put you in here. Chiron was the wounded healer, so having Chiron conjunct the North Node, obviously you know something about astrology. What's up, Kayla? Well, thank you for coming to say hi. Lots of love to you as well. Let me see. Indy was Herbalife. Okay, so let me pull you up. I think I might have you in here. Yeah, I do. All right, so we will be shifting to our regular programming to everybody else. All right, so Herbalife says, I'm secretly seeing another Sagittarius at work. Are the vibes potential there with this connection? Wowzers. I like the secrecy of this. I like it a lot. Thank you for dishing the tea. All right, so looks like we've got Saturn in your 6th house of work, and also your relationship with coworkers, romantic relationships is about Saturn. So this is interesting. Pluto moves into your 5th house of kind of taboo relationship themes. Saturn moves direct now in your 6th house of relationships, and Pisces is secretive. How funny is that? And also whole sign, right? Pisces is your 7th house, so literally relationships. That's why you guys, I can't pick one or the other. All right, so here's the way that I see it. Jupiter is about to go direct, and Jupiter rules relationships. And right now it's in your 8th house, which is kind of like secretive and taboo. At the end of the year, when Jupiter goes direct, it's on a one-way track to a conjunction at 21 degrees, which will be on the cusp of your 9th house. This is where you may start to see the bigger picture unfolding about your future potential with relationships. Now, I'm not saying you have to wait that long. Just kind of keep in the back of your mind, like April of next year is when you're gonna, kind of ask yourself, where is this going? What are we doing? On one hand, Jupiter and Uranus will sextile Neptune. So it can be about like relationship dreams coming true and like all of a sudden things are unfolding. But the other hand is Neptune conjunct the descendant, which you've been dealing with for a little while. Is kind of like, can I trust other people? Are they going to be consistent? Are they going to get ghosty? I can't read them. Are they in or are they out? So be mindful that Neptune it's getting ready to leave that degree, but still it's hanging out on your descendant. In my mind, I think about how Saturn, direct now is definitely going to bring more of a likelihood, I think, of commitment in relationships, especially with people at work. I also think about finally Pluto moving away from your Venus. So you're kind of moving out of situations where maybe you were more predisposed to heartbreak. And I think about how you're going to have a Mercury retrograde, right? Mercury rules your chart in Capricorn. So it's going to start in Capricorn and it's going to go right over your Juno, which is about marriage and partnership. And it's going to retrograde back into Sag, where it's going to conjunct Mars. So intuitively, I feel like this is both about you consciously giving up the past and letting the past go. It might represent changes with home and family situations, so watch for that, or some changes in the neighborhood. But I think Mercury conjunct Juno, sextile Saturn is like really digging deep and kind of asking yourself, well, what am I looking for, in relationship or relationship harmony? If you have Jupiter and the moon in the 5th house, like you love affairs. You like that. That's something that you enjoy. There can be a sense of really enjoying love for the sake of love and taking chances. But in the heart of the matter, Venus in Capricorn in the 4th house is actually somebody who takes love like very seriously. So there's something about this that makes me feel like, the next like year or two with trines to your Venus, you might find that you are like really open to the idea of like embracing the idea of serious long-term commitment. And what that means to be in a relationship with somebody. And if potentially Saturn coming up on the descendant is about there being some more visibility. It might take another, at least to the spring, but it could even take until the beginning of 2025 when Saturn's fully in your 5th house, your 7th house. Other people in general is Jupiter. And being that Jupiter is going to conjunct Uranus in the 9th, it tells me that if you have a secret relationship at work, there may be opportunities for like traveling or excursions or going out and doing things that could possibly give you the opportunity to feel like you're not just kind of living this relationship in a bubble where nobody knows. It's like, well, what are we doing as a couple? So one way to kind of liven that energy up is be like, hey, you know, like let's plan a trip, let's go somewhere, let's take a course together, like let's learn something, like, you know, something like that. That's going to allow you to really kind of grow together as a couple and go out and experience life together and yeah, be able to enjoy yourselves and not feel like everything has to be confined. I also feel like I would pay attention to February, because in February, when you have a whole slew of planets that are going to go through Aquarius, it's going to be, you know, in your whole sign 6th house, and it can materialize as being like, okay, this is the turning point where it's like, is this actually going somewhere or it's not? So the Mercury retrograde in December is about really reflecting on what you want. February is kind of like, okay, what are we doing here, dude? Especially as planets come into conjunction with Pluto and Aquarius. And then by April, it's like, if we are doing this, what are we doing to grow together? So it's not this like secretive thing. But yeah, I kind of like this for you, because I feel like, you know, you are finally kind of getting to the point in this chart where you're like, okay, I very much do want to be in a relationship. And you're going to start seeing that relationships are going to start being more so public in some way, shape, or form, especially by fall of next year, because you're going to start having eclipses in your 7th house. So you'll have one in April of 2024, a solar eclipse here, ruled by Mars, and Mars is conjunct Saturn. So for me, April is like that timeline that's like, what are we doing? And then you're going to have another eclipse right on your descendant in September of 2024. So on the 17th, you'll have a 7th house conjunction, you know, eclipse. It's going to square Jupiter. So it's going to be like, I'm in this relationship. I don't want to hide it. You know, are we going public? So I don't give it any more than maybe like 6-7 months. And then it's like, well, you know, it's kind of like, are we going to come out with this or not? But the relationship astrology with Jupiter trine your Venus, Uranus trine your Venus, is quite positive. I think it's just about pushing through situations where things are secretive or they're hidden, or, you know, where people are unsure. That's all of that like Neptune stuff in your 7th house. Anyway, hopefully that's helpful. Thanks for joining level 3. Definitely catch me sometime the rest of the month so you can cash in on your monthly. All right, so let me plug in some of these charts, if you guys don't mind. Give me just a second, and then I will get these in. That way we can see the rest of the bunch. All right, so I think we got all the way up to there. Okay. So we've got lists. Let's see, do I have view lists? There we go. October 12th, 75. And let's see, DCJ. Who was that? Danielle, okay. Do I have your info, Danielle? I'm trying to scan, see if I can see it. Why am I not seeing that? Danielle, can you send me your info? Unless I have you. Let me see. For Leah, I need the time that you were born. Oh, I've got you, Danielle. Okay. Thank you. Leah, if you're here. Hey, Kim, we haven't done your reading yet. You're going to be the next one. We just finished with the level 3. So it'll be Kimberly, Spellbound, Gloria. You guys are all going to be up next. Do we have Leah's time of birth or city? I'm going to skip you guys if I don't have this information because I need to have this to do your reading. Marina. No worries. And then, yeah, Diana, I saw your info. I'll refund it for you, don't worry. Okay, so Danielle, let me make sure I have the right Danielle here. October 3rd, 95. Did you do it under a different name? I mean, I'm looking for DCJ or Danielle. I don't have it. So Danielle, can you send me your info? Apologies. For some reason it's not popping up. Maybe I didn't save it. October 3rd, 95. I just need the time and the city and the state, please. And we'll save that and we'll come back to it because we got to keep things moving. All right, so I'm going to be taking Kimberly, and we're going to have Christina with Spellbound, Gloria, and then Tamara. You guys are all on deck. So let's see what we have for Kimberly. Oh, there you go. I'd plug your info in then. Thank you. 8:10 a.m. Las Vegas, Nevada. All right, thanks. All right, so we've got Kimberly here who says Jacksonville, Florida, 10:30:73, 9:26 a.m. Love, focus, if anything else jumps out. Thank you. All right, Kim, thanks for your patience. So I've got you here as a Sag rising, a moon in Sag, and a sun in Scorpio. So in terms of relationships, here we go. Taking a look at your 7th house lord. Gemini is in the 7th house of relationships, and it is ruled by Mercury. So if we look at Mercury, what's going on with Mercury right now? Mercury is getting ready to retrograde. We're going to see on the 13th, Mercury will turn retrograde starting in Capricorn, and it'll go from about 8 degrees to 22 degrees of Sagittarius. So this is interesting because this transit is very important for you. For Scorpios in general, you're going to hear that this Mercury retrograde is about making changes in your values, in your relationships. It can mean that you're making some changes financially. But for you in particular, I think it's about making some shifts revolving around the way that you think about relationships or how you communicate with other people. It will retrograde on your North Node, so it's going to bring important opportunities for, I think, self-reflection and insight in terms of what you want in relationships, especially right around like the 20th through the 25th. Then we're going to see Mercury retrograde over your moon, and then we'll see a full moon that's going to be right on top of your Saturn. So like the tail end of December is definitely a lot of who am I, what do I want, how can I better express myself and communicate what I need in relationships or how to better relate to other people. For a Sagittarius rising, I think it's also challenging because there is this sense of redefining what your status is and whether this means like who you're working with or who you're working for or who you're in a relationship or if you want to be in a relationship. All of these things definitely kind of come up. But yeah, I think that there's more of a sense of kind of getting your own ducks in a row this month and trying to figure out what it is that you want so you know how to better kind of relate to other people. Then by the time you get to the end of December and you have this full moon, it's going to give you an opportunity to make some big decisions about whether or not you're ready to get back into dating, to commit more seriously to someone. You know, that full moon being at Saturn at 4 degrees, it makes me wonder if there is going to be conversations revolving around relationship with family, not just romantic relationships, but family or living situations with partners. One of the big themes that I'm seeing for Sag rising charts is that Saturn and Neptune are coming into conjunction over the next 2 years. So there is a sense of trying to figure out or define home, what you want, where you want to live, where you're supposed to be. And the theme with Jupiter in your 7th house next year is going to be relationships developing and like partnerships growing, putting the pressure on you to actually evolve or make changes in your home base. So right now, knowing that that's going to be kind of the forecast for 2024, I think it's about asking yourself, like, you know, what do I want outside of relationships, out of career, everything else? What do I want and what direction am I going in? And how can I better express that to other people? Jupiter will continue to be in an opposition to your sun as a Scorpio. So that's also like opening up the door for opportunities for new relationships to come in and partnerships as well. It looks like you had an eclipse here in conjunction to your Mars earlier this spring. And so As planets are moving through your 5th house as a Sag rising, you're really focusing also on like self-love and your own happiness. Outside of work, outside of children, outside of family or relationships, it's like what's going to make you or bring you the most joy. And so I think that's part of this as well, is kind of being like, well, you know, what's going to make me happy? And where can I find ways to better kind of express myself? And it might be through creative endeavors, self-employment. Aries in the 5th house can be about, you know, taking action, taking charge, creating something, initiating something. And definitely some heavy emotions, heavy moods here with these planets in the 4th house. So there can be a sense of releasing, letting go, seeking, searching, maybe feeling kind of out of place. And that might create a lot of emotions and a lot of feelings that you could like better express through like a creative endeavor. 5th house can be performances. So I'm wondering what's getting ready to emerge with these transits in the spring in your 5th house. Is it like a breakthrough creatively? And is there an opportunity for you to go deeper into romance and connection with other people? Hopefully that's helpful for you. Obviously, you know, you got Venus conjunct Neptune and there's Venus on your ascendant. So there is a sense of really loving the idea of love and like this fantasy concept of love. And Venus blending with Neptune can be about the higher octaves of love and relationships and beauty. But Saturn is now squaring that. Neptune is now squaring that. So there's a lot of being like, have I been chasing waterfalls? Literally. You know, if I maybe falling in love with the idea of somebody, you know, where has it gotten me, and where do I, you know, need to be cautious in relationships and really be looking out for yourself rather than feeling like you're constantly holding space for other people. Good luck, Kim. Hopefully that's helpful. All right, so we've got Spellbound, which is Christina. Make sure I've got the right one here. Yep, it is definitely important, but it's more about your self-love than anything else. And you got Juno conjunct Venus, so you're already, your first relationship, your first marriage is to yourself, you know? 321. Let's see, which one is this? 321.83. Okay. All right. So we've got Christina here with a Gemini rising, Sun in Aries, and Mercury is in Pisces. So the question says, new moon in Sag, what seeds of intention for relationships are cleared for me this new moon? My career and PhD in the background is a huge spotlight. Energy is low, which much multitasking and responsibility, but what about intimacy, relationship, and compatibility in 2024? What do I expect? I'm single, hoping that a Libra Sun, Sag rising in my vicinity wants to interact, but open to all options before, including going at it alone. Okay, cool. So relationships for you are an interesting one because obviously there's a lot of relationship energy in this chart with all of this like South Node and Neptune and Jupiter and Uranus. So there's always been an interesting like storyline about people who come in suddenly, and then there is some kind of like changes or evasiveness, like you're clearing out karma revolving around, I think, separation and isolation or dissolving of relationships in this lifetime, especially with like the North Node on the moon, becoming attuned to your own instincts, your own emotions, your own needs, and not always feeling like you're falling victim to being in relationships with people who are not always readily available. Look at that mutable square. Mercury squares the nodes and it also squares these planets. So it's like, man, you have manifested quite the lifetime, my dear. Planets on the South Node talk about where you've been in the past, what you've had a tendency to do. So I think this can be like isolation in relationships or losing relationships. The North Node moon is about what you're integrating in this lifetime. So instinctual emotional shifts, changing your mind, allowing yourself to have options. And then when a planet squares the nodes, it's also saying you have to integrate this thing. So in this lifetime, that Mercury, I think, in your 11th house is talking more about social relationships and friendships and not just romantic relationships. Being like, if you go too deep into relationship land, you can get lost and you can lose yourself. And if you're way too, self-focused and isolated, there can be a sense of also like not ever really feeling like you're grounded with that Gemini moon in the first. So relationships with friends, network, society, groups, like people who can also support you in a platonic way is an important part of keeping the balance, right? So I bring this up only because right now, Neptune's conjunct your Mercury, and it's probably really hard to express yourself or find the words sometimes because Mercury in Pisces is about emotions. It's about feelings. It's not about communication. So Neptune is kind of having you question, who are my friends? Where are my people? If I'm supposed to be doing this thing, how do I find them? And, are we speaking the same language? And you'll kind of be in that for the next year or two as, Saturn and Neptune come closer and closer to your sun. I think a lot of this is about fresh starts in relationships with other people. It can be about joining, spiritual groups and practices or starting some of these groups and coming together with other people. You're going to need to see a really strong transit involving your 12th house Lord for there to be a relationship thing happening. To add more kind of fuel to the fire, Venus is in the 12th house. So not bad in Taurus, and there's nothing wrong with Venus in the 12th house, but there is this sense of working through relationship karma in this lifetime and some things that kind of take place behind the scenes. So Jupiter is going to come in conjunction with Uranus. It's going to be in the 12th house next year. It's going to be in April. It'll be 21 degrees. So it'll be very close to your Chiron. So it can represent a lot of like emotional healing. It can be doing spiritual work revolving around releasing some of these patterns in relationships. I would say like past life regression might be really powerful for you because the 12th house can be subconscious and it can help you start to release some of these patterns and heal those wounds that might have brought you into this lifetime where you feel like relationships are always kind of slipping, between your hands. On the flip side, Jupiter coming into your first house next year is going to represent a relationship with yourself. And there might be this kind of like, really focusing on me, doing me. Not that you're not open to relationships, but I think that's where you're going to be summer of 2024. And then the opposition might bring somebody in, right? Jupiter and Uranus on your descendant. And you got Jupiter in its ruling sign. So it just so happens you have Jupiter, Uranus, and Neptune, probably the three planets that are the least likely to commit for different reasons, right? Jupiter just wants to kind of, it wants to party, it wants to travel. Uranus just wants freedom, it wants to go against the grain, and Neptune's like, it needs its space. So you attract a certain kind of individual that definitely needs a lot of space. It needs like a leash. And I feel like in this next year, when you become more self-focused, you're going to bring people in rather than feeling like you have to chase them. Does that make sense? You're in your Pluto square, that's part of it. You're also going to experience Saturn square your ascendant and your descendant. So can relationship stuff happen? I mean, obviously it's on your mind because you're getting ready to see a retrograde here pretty soon, and you're going to see Mercury conjunct Mars. So sometimes during retrograde periods, we meet people and there's like karmic, connections. And so at the end of December, Mercury and Mars are meeting in your 7th house. Your Mercury, Mars can be about like a definitive ending. Could you meet somebody who's like a client? Could you meet somebody at the gym? Could you meet somebody who is like athletic and passionate and, just wanting to be friends? Maybe. But that tail end of December makes me feel like something is coming up, and that retrograde is also on your south node. So you're going to have Mercury going back and forth over your south nodes. You could be hearing or thinking about the past, and then you're going to have Mars at the south node. Think of like the month of December as a time period to really pause and reflect, and if there's something that you need to cut ties with or someone, I think really that's what this is about, because it's going to be on your south node, ruled by Jupiter, and Jupiter is in the 12th house. So a lot of this may not even happen in like real life. You might find that it's like, in meditation or in your dreams, you're having some kind of connection to people who you've been involved with in the past, Or maybe you're feeling like somebody's going to come back in. That's the other way I could look at it. But yeah, there's going to be something like this that's going to happen where like this is, for in my opinion, like the clearing, right? This conjunction's happening conjunct the galactic center point. So 27-ish degrees of Sagittarius is like a big black hole that basically is our connection to the ethers. And it's going to be about some kind of download. So at the end of December, you might have a download that's like, oh, it's not that I didn't let them go. They didn't want to let me go. And I need to do a past life regeneration or a regression, or I'm doing a meditation and I'm envisioning these connections and this karma that we had. And I'm going to like do like a cord cutting ceremony and like cut myself free from that. So I'm not repeating these patterns. Because it's going to represent the need to release in order to proceed forward. And I think it's about focusing on your own goals. I think it's also about focusing on relationships that are not purely just romantic. It's going to be friend-based as well. But it's going to be some kind of reverse psychology in the spring going into the summer, where it's like right when you're in a really good place and you're like, I'm good, I'm doing me, somebody will come in. You will definitely see that happen. Hopefully that's helpful for you. Good luck. I've got Gloria and Tamara, and then we will have Liz and Wendy. All right, so Gloria is 12/22/64. At 11:50 a.m. in Littlefield. She's a Pisces rising, moon in Leo, sun in Capricorn. You're welcome. She says, any advice on the upcoming transits? Mercury will be conjunct my sun and retrograde will be hitting a few personal planets. Any advice is helpful. Thank you. Well, yeah, actually, I've got plenty of advice for you here. Obviously, you're a solstice baby. You're born on winter solstice, at least here in the northern hemisphere, 0 degrees of Capricorn. And your sun is in technically the Placidus 10th house. So that's pretty strong in terms of overall life purpose, career, responsibility, your status in the world, right? 11:50 a.m. Yeah. So the retrograde is going to go through Sagittarius and Capricorn. But the Cazimi point is actually going to happen on your birthday. So that's kind of cool. Let me show you that. So the Cazimi point is the halfway point in the retrograde, and it's when the sun forms the superior conjunction with Mercury. So it's almost like Mercury is coming back to the sun in his chariot saying, hey, I have a message for you. I have an envelope for you. Read this thing. And what does Mercury represent in your chart? Well, it represents your 4th house of home and family. It's also the past. It also represents your 7th house of relationships. So it can be about relationships with others. And it's going to retrograde in your 10th house. So how could this materialize? Well, friends or people who you've worked with from the past can reach back out to you. There can be some epiphany or some download or some sense of awareness of something. And what's cool is this is baked into your birthday chart, your solar return. So if you were to look at your solar return, you'll see that on your birthday, there was this conjunction of, I think, the heart, right, and the mind, and this awareness that's like, well, I'm changing something about the way I communicate, or there's something that is shifting, revolving around, something. It depends on what house this is going to fall in your solar return. But 0 degrees of Capricorn is, like I said, the solstice point. So this is where, the winter begins in the northern hemisphere. So it represents an initiation. So I feel like with that plus Mars on your midheaven and your self node, and then we're going to see Mercury retrograde conjunct Mars, also conjunct your south node. Are you thinking about retiring? Are you thinking about switching jobs? Are you wanting to go back to an old line of work? Are you thinking about changing departments? Like, what's going on here? So, something like that seems to be the case. And even if it's not something you're thinking about now, like I said, in the solar return chart for the year, that Sun Mercury Cazimi is going to represent a year where there is some kind of epiphany or enlightenment. What's really cool is that it's sextile Saturn which is obviously about, stability and commitment. You're in your second Saturn's return, so I hope you're faring well. And that second Saturn return looks like it is also going to be about a Jupiter return. So returns are like playing with home field advantage, okay? I know that not everybody watches sports, but like essentially, sometimes you fare a little bit better when you're playing at home. So to me, it looks like, with the Sun in Capricorn, Saturn in Pisces, Jupiter in Taurus, you're like, okay, I'm really like born with this energy. I'm thriving. So there is some sense of you going, okay, I'm planning what my goals are. What moves do I need to make to be able to get to where I want to go? And this is trining Jupiter and the moon. So I think about planning in regards to money and future investments and what you possess and taking stock in what you have. For Capricorns, you're going to hear it's about investing, taking chances. It's going to be things involving children, romance. So it could be, but it's in your second house. So I think it's going to be more about what goals are changing in regards to your business and how are you better kind of financially planning so you can see that completion that you're looking to have, right? So I could see that, especially for a lot of Capricorns, Saturn and Neptune coming into conjunction the next couple of years can definitely be talking about long-term home goals and retirement. But a retrograde on your sun is a moment where I feel like you have the ability to create change. Change in relationships, change in how you communicate, change in your home base, and your goals revolving around these things as well. So yeah, retrogrades aren't fun, but it's going to hit this on the 22nd of December, obviously your birthday. And then Mercury will come back and it's going to hit it again. And that will be without the sun, but it's almost going to be like a Kazemi in your own chart, January 13th and 14th. So if there is some sense of like planning and going back and forth and really thinking about things in regards to work or maybe adapting to new changes at work, systems at work as well, likely that's what you're going to see kind of play out and manifest. Jupiter rules your 10th house, and Jupiter and Uranus are going to come into conjunction. So maybe you're like kind of eyeballing trying to get a promotion or trying to get a pay raise or some kind of increase in salary next spring. And I think that that's very doable when you see your Jupiter return, okay? Be open to change. Give yourself the process to go through that retrograde until it's going to be, pretty much complete for you around the 14th or the 15th. And then Mercury is going to leave shadow on the 20th. So, man, this retrograde's a doozy. The squares to Neptune is like, am I seeing clearly? The trines to Jupiter is like, okay, I'm really focusing on positive kind of long-term goals and growth. So it's wonderful. Maybe to take a look at your finances. Talk to your bank, talk to your investors, your investing people. If you work with a financial advisor, and talk to them about your plans and how to like make your money work for you. So that way you're feeling a little bit more settled when it comes time to retire. Hopefully that was helpful. Okay, so we have got, let's see, lists. And this was October 12th, 75. After lists, we will have Wendy and Danielle, Astrid, Leah. You guys are all next. You're welcome, Gloria, and good luck. All right, so let's see here. Where was Liz? Sorry, guys, if I don't have your question in the memo, it's hard for me to scroll through this. So if I don't catch it, you can resend that question to me. That would definitely be super helpful. Let's see, where was that? Let's see. Oh, sorry, Tamara. I see you. Tamara. Liz, send me your question. I'm going to take Tamara before I forget. Thank you. Sorry, guys. I have tired eyes. There we go. Let's see. So we've got Tamara, 2/22/84, 7:55 a.m. in Boise. I've had sort of a rough 2023 all around. I've had a lot of changes this year, praying for a positive shift in all areas. What should I be focusing on now into 2024? All right, so let's take a look. Liz, let me know what your question is, please, while we wait. So for you, Tamara, I've got Pisces Sun, Pisces rising, and your moon is in Scorpio. All right, well, you're a whole lot of water, girl. You know, it sounds to me like Saturn's been kind of more or less kicking your ass. So Saturn has been tearing through your 12th house really since 2020. Which feels isolating. 12th house is, you know, hidden away, private, spiritual, but it can also feel like we are removed from the planet. And it's really tapping into your natal placements that you have in your 12th house about reflection and like letting things go and working on things on a spiritual level. The pros are Saturn is going to leave your 12th house. So the 12th house is what's wrapping up, and then the ascendant is what is emerging. The rising sign, like, you know, the sun is rising. So essentially you're getting an opportunity to start over, but it's after this period of reflecting on what has ended or what you have wrapped up, okay? What you want to know is that Saturn's going to hit your sun one more time here in the next month or so, and that can be a test of your energy levels, your health, your mental health, your vitality, but then it's moving away from your sun, okay, by mid-January. Then you have Saturn that's going to sit on your ascendant, and that is going to be from February pretty much to round about, let's say, March. It looks like you're going to have a new moon that's going to be in March right on your ascendant, and I feel like this is kind of like hitting that reset button. And yeah, by the time you get Saturn on your ascendant, you're more mature, more aware of your goals, what you need, what you're hoping to achieve, because Saturn rules your 11th house of these things. So this is kind of like that opportunity finally to kind of like rise up again. What will be nice is that even though Saturn's going to be in Pisces for another 2 years, you're going to see a couple of really interesting things happen. One is Saturn is going to square the nodes, which means you're going to be at a crossroads. You're going to have to commit more seriously to your goals, what you want, your independence. You're not going to be willing to settle. Saturn is about commitment and hard work and dedication and time. And then I also think about, like, you know, Pisces being about emotional boundaries, psychic boundaries, spiritual boundaries, limitation, you know, lower energy vibes. So you're going to have to make some decisions about what direction you're going in for yourself, which may impact your home or your career. But in the background next year, Saturn is trining your moon in the 8th house. It's trining your Mars in the 8th house. It's trining your Saturn. So it's basically saying to you, tap into the medicine of that Scorpio moon, which is change, transformation, being brave, you know, making changes, building yourself up, taking action. It's a really intense conjunction you have. I mean, just the moon in Scorpio in general is challenging because it is the darker side, the shadow side of our emotions. But in the 8th house and then the conjunction to Mars and Saturn, it tells me that you can have sometimes a little bit of like a prickly emotional reaction to things. I say that lovingly, by the way. That's my Sun and my Mercury degree, so 19 degrees. So we have the same placements, and I have Mars in Scorpio too. So I definitely, I understand that, I think, better than most people. But the trine is going to be talking about looking at what your goals are and becoming so goal oriented that you're like, you know what, I'm willing to make change at all costs, even though it's scary. So it's going to push you through some of these shifts, and it's going to help kind of build on your emotional strength. It's going to teach you, I think, to be strong, to make some of these changes. So you'll start to see through the trines that you're like, okay, this is a good thing. And then you'll also see sextiles to Jupiter and Uranus. Like this makes me feel like you're commuting differently. Maybe you're learning something new. Maybe you're relocating or you're traveling. Like things will get better. I promise you that. The thing that you want to watch for is going to be when Saturn squares the nodes. And it will, I think, square, it looks right around like the second half of March. And that's when you're going to be like, okay, what do I value the most? What's important to me? Okay, I'm going to make this change. So be present for that, because I think Saturn is only going to retrograde back to, oh no, it'll retrograde back to 12. So then you'll be there again in October. October and November, you'll also be in that kind of turning point. And all I can tell you is that from my experiences, when Saturn squared my nodes, that was like me kind of going like, okay, that's my comfort zone. This is what I don't know how to do. How do I integrate? And that's what you want to learn how to do in this next year. And really it's about listening to your intuition, I think, in your first house. It's about having better boundaries with people, and not letting people walk all over you, or not being evasive or kind of hiding. Because the last couple of years you've had the opportunity to do that, but I think that there's like a new and improved you that's emerging. And I feel like this is going to be about you appreciating the period that you've had kind of behind the scenes where, yeah, it's been difficult and you have been isolated, but something good is going to be emerging of it. And you're a lot, I think, more mature, and you've had a lot more life experience now, and you're unwilling to settle. That's kind of the vibe that I'm getting. Eclipses next year start in Pisces. You'll see that in the fall as well. And because Jupiter is your chart ruler, you know, Jupiter coming into contact with Jupiter and Uranus is really good for you in the spring, apparently, in regards to your money and your resources. So this can be about big breakthroughs in self-esteem, in your spending habits, and the money that you possess. And it may lead to having new income streams that are coming through doing some kind of work online, or writing, or maybe you're taking classes or teaching classes. And I think you're going to be learning a lot about Taurus related things. So food, energy, Uranus and Taurus, money, investments, that kind of stuff. Hopefully that's helpful for you. Good luck. That Saturn hole is not fun when you're in it, but you're coming through the other side now. What's up, Kimmy? Is Liz here? Liz, let me know if you're here. I want to do your reading for you. Otherwise, I'm gonna just do a general reading, so I'll ask another time. Let's do Wendy. What's up, Wendy? Wendy, I keep thinking about this new moon that's going to oppose your sun. That's coming. All right, so let's see. What's your question here? I'm having laser and surgery under eyelid on the 19th this month. Also big changes with work, I feel. Am I correct? Love ya. Okay, so you're doing this on the 19th. The question is are you going back and making these changes? Is it cosmetic, or is this something that you're doing for your vision? Under eyelid on the 19th. Okay, so, all right. Surgery is going to be Saturn. Saturn is direct, so you got that working in your favor. You are going to be experiencing Mercury's retrograde, sextile Saturn. Mercury is going retrograde in your whole sign 8th house, which is going to be about making changes surgically, right? Or something that's being removed or changed. And the thing that I would say is, like, Mercury is retrograde. Mercury rules your body. Okay, so Mercury going retrograde, even if it's in a sextile to Saturn, you want to be very, very, very careful with any health alterations or changes. That's just me personally. The face actually deals more with Aries. The eyes can sometimes be Taurus. It depends, but the face, head in general, is Aries. And so you're going to have the moon in Aries square Mercury. Looks like this is later. So let's say the moon's going to be closer to being in Pisces, but that's still going to square the sun. So like one thing that can happen with these squares is you can see like a lot of swelling. We can also sometimes see that with like Mars square Neptune. I would say until Mercury is complete with its retrograde, which will be the 1st, and it comes out of the trine with Jupiter and Pluto in your chart, you know, it may take until mid-January to see the full effects of your surgical procedure. I also feel like so much of this Mercury retrograde, because it's going to return back to Sagittarius, is it's going to be about perception. So I want to make sure it's not going to interfere with your ability to see, right? Because Mercury is about, you know, you communicating, traveling, driving. Mercury is going to square Neptune in the 10th house, unless you're willingly saying, I'm taking some time off of work. I'm not going to be doing meetings. I'm going to kind of take some time to bounce back. Visibility issues can be a bit of a problem. So at the very least, I mean, it'd be one thing if you're going back and correcting something that you've been meaning to correct, but yeah, it can take you until, you know, the second half of January to really see the full effects of this particular, this change to your face. At least Mercury's trine Jupiter. So it does seem to me like whatever you're changing, you know, you've got a good person handling things and helping you make these changes. But I would say don't rush the healing process and really make sure you're taking time if you do need to take time and not physically be in an office or running around or doing things, and manage swelling. That's the best thing I can tell you, because I think that there could be some issues with your first house ruler square Neptune. And if your face is swollen, you can't be driving, or you're not going to want to be on Zoom, or you're not going to be putting your eyeglasses on. These can be some of the things that you could see that could interfere from you connecting with other people or physically being at work. Work changes are going to happen regardless. Part of this is because Saturn is going to hit 2, so it's kind of stabilizing now in regards to your work zone, and you're on the precipice of coming into your Saturn return. So you will be having this Saturn return taking place obviously next year. It looks like that's going to be right around April, May of 2024. And it's going to correspond also with a Mars conjunction. So it seems like April is going to be about work, productivity, making the best of situations, even if there have to be cutbacks or changes to staff or changes to your schedule. So I would say just in general, knowing that you have Saturn in the 10th house, it's this kind of coming of age transit with your professional life and your career. But the conjunction to Chiron is about healing wounds and issues with bosses, and with Mars being factored into this return, it looks like it's going to be about you maybe breaking with people or things or situations that you feel like aren't worth their time, or if it's people that are kind of sending you, you know, into a bit of a tailspin. Anyway, I hope that's helpful. Definitely let me know, like circle back the second half of January and just like drop me a message in a live or something, and let me know how you're doing with bouncing back post-surgery, okay? Thanks for checking in. I'm still looking for Liz. So Liz, are you here? This is who I have left. I have Danielle, I have Leah, Marina, Jasmine's Sinistry, and that's it. And then Deanna, I will refund you, don't worry. So if you heard your name, it's still coming. I have not heard from Liz, but I'll just pull your chart and I'll tell you what I see. So Danielle, Astrid, and Leah, you guys are all on deck. All right, Liz, I hope you're here. Looks like you're a Libra Sun, Libra rising, and your moon is in Capricorn. Okay, so for me, I'm looking at your Venus transits. I'm looking at Venus starting to come into an opposition with Jupiter and an opposition with Uranus. Okay, so the next week or two, it looks a little active for your chart ruler as Venus moves through your first house of your physical appearance. It opposes Jupiter, so it's bringing other people in. But there can be strong back and forth that you have with other people about money, resources, physical things, or values. I also see that you are going to be having, let's see, Venus will come into an opposition with Uranus as well. And that's going to be around the 20th. So there's something going on here about relationship fluctuation and changes. especially financial changes, values. There can be a sense of there being a little friction with relationships to other people. And that South Node is coming deeper into your 12th house. And so somebody who's got Sun, Mercury, Pluto, all in your 12th house in Libra, tells me that there is a sense of working through the karmic, the subconscious, the hidden, the behind the scenes matters in relationships that can, weigh very much on your mind. And the South Node's about to hit your Sun. So to me, it looks like there are some big changes that might be happening in regards to your relationship with your career, with male figures like bosses, husbands, fathers. And then the South Node is coming for your Mercury. So one word of advice is to breathe, right? Mercury retrograde at a 12, breathe, meditate, reflect. Ask yourself if you're ready to let some of these things go. If you're willing to shed old layers about yourself and what you thought relationships had to be like, and maybe that they have to be difficult or challenging, what you're going to observe is with Jupiter and also the North Node conjunct Jupiter, new partnerships can come in, people can come in that can initiate new relationships with you, but also counselors, therapists, astrologers, coaches, all of these people are people who can come in that can really help you with some kind of growth within relationships. The North Node on your Jupiter can quite literally mean bringing in a foreigner or somebody from a foreign place who can kind of guide you. And all the while, this is squaring the moon. So it's a little uncomfortable because it's putting you in a position of having to learn how to communicate and talk about your feelings and not just jump into conclusions and assuming that relationships are gonna, fall apart or be destructive. You're having to learn to communicate and work through issues. And with that moon being in a square natally to your Sun and your Chiron, it looks like there's a sense of learning to become super self-sufficient because you're relationships are a problem, or I can't always rely on people, or it's easier to be alone. So you're learning not to kind of fall back on that as much, I guess. And I think about that 21 degrees of Taurus, and next year, Jupiter and Uranus are going to sit conjunct the South Node. This is ruled by Venus, and you have Venus in Virgo, so it looks like there is going to be some huge shift either with your resources that's going to be beneficial. It looks like it might also be shifts revolving around your relationships with friends, and some big breakthroughs in regards to how you look at change and transformation. And oh my gosh, it's you're going to have an eclipse on your Jupiter. I don't know what's changing or ending in relationships or what's been shifting for you the last couple months, but something new is getting ready to emerge for you in the spring. And it looks like it's about allowing people to come in and initiate this relationship with you and be guiding you and also maybe challenging you a little bit. And it's to kind of let go of old patterns in some sense, right? Yeah, definitely. There's definitely some heavy shifts going on, but these eclipses are very much mirroring some of the astrology that you were born with, where you have oppositions between Libra and Aries, which is where you are versus other people. And the planets in the 12th house, which represent, like I said, subconscious things, and the 6th house is how it manifests as conflict or issues, possibly even with relationships and how that impacts your health. So there can be a sense of you being certain people have to go away right now because it's not healthy for me. And maybe it's you realizing and recognizing that it's a good time to just let there be space, because it might actually be more beneficial for your health and your habits. Anyway, I hope that that's helpful for you. Okay, so we've got Danielle. We're going to do Danielle, Astrid, Leah, Marina. And Danielle is going to be a Sinistry. So let's pull that up there. And let me put the other person's info here. July 13th, 1995. Okay, so not sure if you recall my situation a little bit, but my boyfriend lands the Libra sun, Scorpio rising, Aquarius moon. Okay, gotcha. Another Libra rising. We've got the Sinistry of the South Node on the 7th, the Sun squares. You know, just looking at your chart before we even get into theirs, it looks like you said they are a Leo rising, Aquarius, Cancer sun, Leo rising, Aquarius moon. So that's going to be okay, something like that, moon to moon. Okay, so that's more of the Sinistry in a nutshell. So what was your specific question? Your boyfriend Lance, Sun and Scorpio rising. I'm trying to remember what it was. I live in California. That's right. He spent Thanksgiving in New York with his family and came back. Things have been going well, but now it comes time to talk about going to New York for Christmas. Well, I mean, here's one thing that I would take into consideration is that you are having a retrograde that's going to be going through your 3rd house, which means reviewing, sitting down and having conversations about movement. Whether it's transportation, vehicles, travel, you're reassessing that. And the retrograde itself is a little stressful because it is, you know, it's a retrograde, so we miscommunicate, but it's squaring your sun and your Chiron. So it looks like there's like a little bit of like an iffiness about having this conversation. He wants to spend about 3 weeks there. He feels like me spending the entire 3 weeks there after everything that happened and him going home gives him anxiety. He would prefer if I came for like a week and he went back home. I don't even know if it's a good idea for me to go. I might just be being sensitive, but I feel unwelcome. Okay, so there you go. So going back and forth in the anxiousness literally about traveling. The sun is in the 12th house too. So there is this feeling like, you know, is it worth me coming out of my cave and like traveling and interacting and having some kind of situation where we go together or not? The retrograde also for a Cancer is going to be 7th house to their sun. So even though they have a different rising sign, it's going to represent some back and forth with a relationship with a partner that he's going through. And yeah, I mean, like it literally makes sense to me. Here's the issue that I see with this. The issue that I see is that inevitably we are going to experience, you know, planets going into Aquarius. So for him next year, it's about big changes going on with relationships. Pluto going into Aquarius can be about a make or break situation in a relationship. And then you're also going to see Jupiter and Uranus meeting in the spring, which is supposed to be about some new big accomplishment or shift in regards to his status. Really, here's what it comes down to. Is this person really looking for what you're looking for? That's what I would be asking. You guys are both 12th housers. You guys are both used to kind of having your alone time sometimes and then coming together or needing your space. I think you both understand that. I think it's a little different though, because if you have all that Libra in the 12th house, you're used to partners who do that. He's a Leo rising with all these planets in the 12th house, so he likes to feel like he has alone time with his family. I wouldn't be taking it personally, but I do feel like there is going to be a need probably to sit down, even whether you go or not, and be like, well, are we on the same page? What are we looking for? Because knowing what's coming in February, where there's this big development where, you know, Pluto's in Aquarius, planets are going to come into conjunction with Pluto. It's going to represent a time where you're really asking yourself, can we merge family? Can we merge home? You know, what are we going to be doing in terms of the future with living situations, and how is that going to be impacting us if we're having issues? How can we move through this and learn to kind of have family time together or holiday time together? And then, you know, in the spring when Jupiter and Uranus come into conjunction, if it were to materialize as like going to the next step. Oh, sorry, I thought I saw Leo. Okay. There we go. It's hard if I don't have the time. Usually I need the time, so that's helpful. But I mean, some of the same stuff though. I mean, it's going to be more about what's going on in the home front, and a lot of Scorpio risings are having to go through some really significant home change. And like, if he's a Scorpio rising, Pluto rules his chart. Pluto going into the 4th house means he's going to be very moody, and sensitive to home changes. And that's squaring his ascendant and it's squaring his descendant, which means these changes are affecting him and a relationship and stuff on the home front. So any which way you slice it, that's what's going to happen. I would say to you that, you know, the retrograde can also represent going for a period of time and then returning. So if you're going somewhere and then you're returning and you're coming back, it's like, if you really don't feel like you're welcome, then going and then being there and then having like a mood change probably isn't a good idea, right? Going there and being like, okay, let's have an understanding, let's be there, let's be present, let's have the experience, and then I will return. You know, it's definitely something that I would think about. Let's see. I really feel awkward after he went home after a fight, and it's at his family's house and they know what happened. If it doesn't want to go to spend time alone with his family, he just wants to go because he doesn't want us to get into a fight or anything like that while we're out there. Since it's a short period of time that would have been together since the fight when we got back. Okay. So let's see, let me plug in his info so I can look at this because I didn't see that on the first one. Let's see. And that was 10/19. AM. Let's see, hold on a second. October. Oh, you're July 13th. Okay, so it's the other way around. Okay, because I was like, who's who? There must have been something that was kind of the other way around when this was plugged in. Okay, so let me look at this again. So you are going to be October 3rd, 1995 at 10:19 a.m. October 3rd, 10:19 a.m. and that was in New York. There you go. There you go. Okay, and then you are July 13th, 95. And that was at 8:10 in Las Vegas. AM, okay. There we go. For some reason, okay, Scorpio rising, and then you're the 21 degrees. Does that right? Sound right to you? Very Mercury retrograde. Okay, so you've got the Leo rising with the sun, and then they have the Scorpio rising with the sun. So there you go. So that should seem more correct. So basically, you know, the Leo rising is about the Pluto transits. I mean, you know, going into the 7th house, it can feel like a make or a break situation in February in this next year. I remember telling you that in the last live. Really what it comes down to is that, you know, you have this Mars conjunction where his Mars is sitting in conjunction to your IC. So it can be representing some kind of disruption with the home or with the family. That doesn't necessarily mean it's you. It's just that's there, especially when it's on the most southern part of the chart. And then when we flip it around and we look at, like, you know, the Scorpio rising, I mean, Uranus is back and forth in the 7th house. So from a Scorpio rising perspective, It's going to be a lot of like, what's going on with my partner? Why are they being a problem? Well, Uranus is opposing their Mars, which means you're challenging their will. And as much as I hate to say this, between the South Node eclipses in Libra, which is supposed to be shaking out a lot of this, and also Uranus that's still going to oppose their Pluto for the next year or two with Jupiter, like relationships are going to come in for this person and they're basically going to be like, why are you not changing? And they're going to project that onto their partners. Does that make sense? My main question is the general outcome of going to New York for Christmas, if that's a good idea and if our relationship is going to work out. Is he hiding anything or keeping secrets? No, I don't really see that being the case. He is a Scorpio rising and Venus rules his 7th house and it's in the 11th, conjunct the North Node, and there's eclipses there. So if anything, this is more about the relationship that he's having with other people on a friendship level. I don't necessarily see it being about romantic partners. But Jupiter and Uranus is on like a fast track in his 7th house, which means there's either going to be sudden relationship development or something is going to like feel like the wheels fall off. I felt like because of our fight, he had to go home to New York. Well, I mean, the home base is where Saturn is right now. So Saturn going into the 4th house is definitely going to take him home regardless. I don't think it's necessarily because of your fight. I think it's because Saturn is in the 4th house and Saturn is natally, you know, in this in this part of the chart. So it is bringing this person back. It's a part of their Saturn return. Literally, people go back home while they have Saturn in the 4th, you know, because of that transit. And at a 19, it can mean experiencing challenges in communication with a partner, so they go back home, right? And then it can be during the Saturn return, there's a back and forth about a living situation. I believe the astrology is doing what it's supposed to do, quite frankly. Until there is like an issue with the Venus, the natal Venus, that's when you're going to see some changes. And like the South Node's conjunct natal Venus right now, which is like, I feel like I need space from a partner. That doesn't mean it's ending. It just means that there is some kind of space that's going on. And like, you know, you might start to see the shifts where things are actually getting better come the new year. So my issue having looked at the retrograde is that what may seem like a good idea, other people might kind of look around and go like, oh, that's actually, no, that's not really what I wanted to do. This isn't working. Right? And so the retrograde for you is going to be in your 6th house, which is going to be, whole sign 12th to your 7th. And if you guys are going to call it quits, or if there's something that's maybe not working, I would be more paying attention to what happens with the Mercury-Mars conjunction here. Because it can represent being like, something's not working, we need to make a change. I mean, personally, I'm not going to tell you what to do. But I look at this and I go, I think it's better if you're using this time to do something independently rather than being together. So if you guys can agree to get along, you want to see him for a week. And if you can overcome some of the challenges with hurt feelings and you guys fighting and you make the most of the trip and then you both have alone time, that's actually really good for your chart. Giving you the opportunity to kind of come together in the new year and be like, okay, what direction are we going and moving forward? But I'm going to be honest with you, okay? I don't pick sides. Leo risings are fucking drama, okay? I know a lot of them, no offense to you, but they are. That's why you guys are the way that you are. And if your sun is in close conjunction to Venus, it means that you want to feel like you're a part of the group. So there can be the sense of being like, I'm not feeling included. So that's going to cause a problem. And obviously it's in opposition to all this Capricorn. So it's bringing up the sensitivity that you have of feeling separate from the family or feeling separate from the home environment. And you see that as kind of like, oh, I don't play that game. I don't want to be separated. So when I look at his astrology, you're going to see for the better part of the next few years, sorry, we went through these charts a few times, so I got to find the right one. There we go. When you look at his astrology for the next few years, okay, Uranus is still going to be in his 7th house. So he's going to see that he's going to think his partner's being the one who's being challenging and confrontational. And sometimes they are, depends. Uranus is still in opposition to Mars, which means like if other people are getting kind of restless, he kind of gets prickly. And then Uranus is going to oppose his Pluto. It's been my experience when I have a lot of Scorpio risings in my life and a lot of clients, but friends, family, people that I know very well personally, When Uranus was in their 7th house in opposition to Mars or Pluto, which rules their chart, they were super toxic. They were behaving very badly, and they were very quick to be like, it's not me, it's you. Ah. And they were resisting the change, and it didn't matter how sassy or reactionary their partners got. If they weren't aware that their tendencies and their patterns and their behaviors were stunting their growth, then relationships would kind of implode. So I'm not saying it's not possible, but I am saying that Pluto going into your whole sign 7th house next year, it's very obvious you're kind of at a turning point. Same thing for the spring. You're supposed to be going further and deeper into relationship commitment. This is a chart that tells me that even next year when he has his Saturn return, he may still be feeling like he needs space or separation from a partner because he's got Saturn at 19 degrees and it's in the 4th house. So it's almost like I look at this and I'm like, look, you may be right back here again in April. So you have to ask yourself, do you just want to fight through this, force, being able to work through this for the holidays, and then 4 months later find yourself in the same situation? Because that could happen. You're better off being like, you know what, I don't feel like I'm getting over this. Like, let's just take space and we can reconnect. Or if you guys can make the best of it and see each other for a week, you can. But I think it's best for both of the charts for there to be some space. And watch out with that retrograde because, the Mercury retrograde for Scorpio risings, it means that they're going to be miscommunicating, right? Or feeling misunderstood or not being heard or some kind of change with the travel plans or the movement. That's squaring all of his planets in his 11th house. So it could mean that, he thinks you're going all the way up until the week you're supposed to leave, and he tells your family that you're going to be there. And then all of a sudden you're like, actually, I'm not coming. And then he's like, well, I just told my family, like, ugh, So have clear communication about what direction this is kind of going in. And if you do a little bit of further digging, both his Jupiter, Uranus in his 7th, both his Saturn return, both his Uranus in opposition to Mars and Pluto tells me that this one's still got a little bit ways to go in terms of working through some of his communication styles and some of his behavior. And you have to ask if that's something that you want to keep doing. Hopefully that's helpful. Good luck. You're gonna need it with that one in particular. All right, so let's see. We've got Astrid, Leah, Marina. Okay, Astrid, I've got you here June 14th, 1997 at 11:07 a.m. in Jalisco. Leo rising, Sun in Gemini, Moon in Libra. Let's see. So transit reading for what I want to set the right intentions for to put my focus on manifesting more freedom in my daily routines and increasing my income opportunities. I like it. Well, so timely now that Pluto is back in your 6th house. So making big changes in regards to your productivity, your health, your routine. Change is the key with Pluto, and Pluto's about to hit your Neptune. So for me, this seems like focusing more on productivity, detoxing, and clearing out negative patterns, habits, or work environments. And then money is going to relate more to your Mercury placement. And it looks like in this next year, Jupiter's going to hit Mercury over the summer. So you're going to maybe see like a second opportunity for a job to emerge or a new position to emerge over the summer, which could definitely bring more money, especially because what we're going to see is when Jupiter enters into your 7th house, it's going to start trining Pluto. So, this new moon in Sagittarius that we're having, it's so awesome for setting intentions and for manifesting. Let me show it to you. Because it's going to make a trine to the North Node. So for you, it's like, how can I make shifts and focus on change and like committing to these changes? And it's also going to have Mercury, which is your 2nd house ruler, money, trine Jupiter. I feel like this is going to be about learning new ways maybe to invest, or you might consider some kind of side business or hobby or another way to drum up some extra resources. And in 6 months, when this becomes a full moon, we're going to see a full moon in Sagittarius, and this will be in Gemini season next year, and the ruler will be Jupiter, and Jupiter and Venus is at the top. So for me, it's like May, June, July, there's something new that's going to be like emerging basically for you moving forward in terms of your career. So some kind of big development is coming about 6 months from now. So you want to use the new moon in Sagittarius to say, okay, how am I manifesting opportunities to be able to better express myself, have more time for creativity, for fun, to drum up more money, maybe to take a hobby and turn it into like a side business, something that can be like creative and give you more opportunity for growth. I think Pluto going into your 6th house would do that anyway. So there's definitely something about some change in terms of your work and your status and your routine as well. But you want to give it until about May or June next year for it to fully manifest. Right after this full moon, you're going to see Jupiter and also the Sun and Venus go into your 10th house. And then there's going to be a Venus Cazimi right around here. So it does look like a new work opportunity is emerging for you. End of May, beginning of June 2024. That's kind of the feeling that I'm getting looking at this. Especially with these trines. How magical is that? Total shifts in terms of communication, ideas, how you're working, where you're working, how you're making money. So definitely the best is yet to come. I would say, working with this incoming new moon in Sag, writing down your intentions, putting them down on paper, doing some kind of maybe ritual involving intentions and prayer or fire at home. So you can write something, burn a candle, something like that. And this is going to trine your ascendant, and it's also going to trine the North Node. And it looks like you realize that part of this setting intentions goes hand in hand with being like, oh, some things also have to change, right? You're like, I have to let something go. Something has to shift in order for something new to kind of emerge. As a Leo rising, you're a late Leo rising, so you're starting to feel similar to what Virgo risings are feeling, South Node going through the 2nd house. So there's a sense of being like, I'm releasing or I'm letting things go. For some people, it's selling things, getting rid of relationships, releasing people. But I think this could also be about you kind of saying to yourself, you know what, I have to kind of create space. And maybe that means not working a full-time position, or maybe dedicating a little bit more time to something, or investing my energy or my money into something and spending less, buying less, consuming less, so you can have more opportunity for change and transformation as the North Node is going through your 8th house. So it's really all about embracing some of these changes. You're in a mutable square right now where Neptune's on the South Node. You're probably kind of questioning where are relationships, what's going on, what's happening there. And then the square to your Sun where it's like, I'm not going to say you can't have relationships, but relationships aren't really the focus right now. There is a sense of dissolving relationships that don't make you feel like you have a sense of clarity, control, or direction. And right now, I think with Gemini in the 10th house, it's about really focusing on what is going to be best for me. Where am I going to feel like I have the most control, and not kind of giving your power away to other people, right? That seems to be like a really big theme in my mind. I also feel like with Saturn square Pluto and Saturn coming into a square with Mercury, you're going to feel like you can't maintain emotional or homes, kind of stability and relationships and work. And so you might start to realize where there are certain relationship hangups that are coming up where you just have to turn certain people loose. So really this is about embracing change, opening your heart space, right? Sagittarius in the 5th house, and being more open to the idea of adventure and not feeling like you have to be super hung up on certain specific relationships, learning to kind of be the steward of your own ship. Hopefully that's helpful for you, Astrid. It's money stuff is going to be a thing. Saturn and Neptune are coming into oppositions with your North Node and also with your Mars. And so I think it's about realizing or recognizing how much you're giving to other people, right? And it could be time, it could be energy, it could be resources, and where there could be a drain coming from other people. And also where you spend money and you're not even realizing it, and where you might kind of impulsively spend stuff or, buy stuff for the home, because Mars is the ruler of your 4th house, or where family or other people are asking for resources, you might start to realize that there is a connection there of this never-ending kind of black hole financially, where you're giving it to home, family, roommate, some kind of cost of living situation, and you realize that something kind of needs to change with that as well. So the new moon in the 4th house can be about manifesting shifts revolving around your home base, right? Hopefully that's helpful for you. We've got Leah, Marina, and then Jasmine. Thank you guys for your patience. I appreciate it. I appreciate it very much. Leah's been like, is there anybody there? Yes, it's just taking a little bit longer to get through these tonight, guys. Sorry. All right, Leah. So I've got you here January 5th, 92. Cancer rising, sun and moon in Capricorn. She says, astrology read, please. What the full moon has in store. I had a conversation with a friend during our dinner and I'm feeling sensitive about it towards the realm of love. So it's signaling me to dump him as a friend. That's probably long overdue. Or what? Thanks. So you're asking about the full moon, right? Which is going to be in Cancer. You're not asking about the new moon. But here's something I will say to preface that. I will answer your question specifically. Girl, you got a whole bunch of stuff going on in your 6th house right now. And as an astrologer, the one thing I've observed is like where relationships really end is in the 6th house, because this represents the 12th house to the 7th. This is all the stuff that happens in the background where other people are causing problems, saying things, giving their opinions, where there's breakdown and imbalances in relationships right before the relationships end. So with that being said, you were born with Mercury conjunct Mars. Okay, so you're a little spicy. When you have Mercury in the 6th house, that's good because it means that you don't mince words. What you say is what you mean. Obviously in Sagittarius, there is this bigger energy of the bigger picture when it comes to communication with other people. And this can be a really passionate and intense mind, right? So it's really different than all that Capricorn because it tells me that there is a sense of you thinking things through and kind of wanting to respond and do things impulsively, but it can also mean in regards to relationships that sometimes stuff starts to kind of break apart and fragment in relationships because of conversations prior to the actual dissolving Sun Neptune in the 7th, if that makes sense. Even if you meant the new moon, that's okay. I want to talk to you about this. So what's going to happen here is we're going to see this Mercury retrograde be in your 6th. Right? Which you're used to having. So home field advantage. But Mercury will come into conjunction with Mars around the 27th, which you were born with. And I think that's going to be about being like, I'm cutting this thing or this person from the team. Okay. And that's going to be right around the full moon, which I don't think that was a slip. I think you actually needed to hear about both. So that way you're like, you know what? I'm feeling like I'm good. I'm doing what's best for me emotionally. That full moon's going to be conjunct your South Node. You're going to be like, I'm taking space from somebody, right? All right. So likely you'll see that sometime around the end of December. But what's interesting is that the new moon, right, is going to be in your 6th house, conjunct Mercury, with Mercury getting ready to retrograde back onto, all of these placements. So it's going to be about you being like, I'm going to reflect on what they said. I might talk to them about it. I might not. I'm just, thinking about it and realizing like it might not be a match. They may try to backtrack or retract what they said to you. You may have an experience where somebody gets upset and they're like, I didn't mean it like that. You're taking it out of context, because this retrograde is in its fall in Sag and it's squaring Neptune. So there can also be misunderstandings, not seeing eye to eye about things, not being able to see each other's perspectives, and there can be a lot of passive aggressiveness. So I'm almost wondering if it's like, how do you want to do it? You want to sit down and have the conversation with them and be like, hey, I'm not feeling this? Because if you do want to have that, do it while Mercury is in a trine to Jupiter, which will be December 18th, so you can try to better understand and hash it out. You're also going to have Mercury that's going to come back into a trine with Jupiter, and both Mercury and Jupiter will be direct, which makes me feel like you can rehash things and have a better understanding around the 18th. Or if you go the passive aggressive route where you're like, I don't like what they said, that's an ick, I'm out, then it will fade out and you can use the retrograde to do that. But I have seen for quite a few Cancer risings myself that this retrograde is about returning back and communicating with people and trying to rehash something that was said that was taken the wrong way and trying to restore the friendship. So if you want to give them the opportunity to kind of talk to you about it, you can. Certainly, you're not going to have a shortage of friends with this building, Jupiter-Uranus conjunction in your 11th. There's new people coming into your life. You're going to make new friends. There's going to be plenty of people. It's all trining your 7th house. So it's also going to open the door to relationships. Like you have no shortage of friends. But I do think it's really important to sit down and really decide whether or not you want to keep this friendship. Because if you do, work with the Jupiter trine Mercury, try to find a way to kind of have a better understanding so you're not falling into the argumentative traps of the Mercury-Mars conjunction. That'll be the second half of December. I think that'll really help. And then just the new moon in general, being in your 6th house is about better health, habits, productivity. It's going to be obviously, having a number of aspects to the North Node. So it's also about responsibility, maturity, expanding your career endeavors. It's a great time to be like, I'm getting back to the gym. I'm focusing on organization. I'm focusing on how I can learn more about health and wellness. And like, it'll be interesting to see Mars hit this degree, because I think that you're really going to see this uptick in being like, yeah, I really, really want to feel like I'm getting my life in order. And it might mean that you're feeling like you have to do that with some of your friends first, right? And then 2, there is going to be a new moon that's going to be very, very close to your natal Neptune and your natal moon. And so that's like the real restart. Capricorn moon, obviously new opportunities for Capricorn, but new relationships, but also, a different look maybe at your relationship with yourself or other people. So it's a good idea to get some of this stuff kind of shored up prior to that new moon, where you're really kind of hitting restart with relationships and friendships with the trines to Uranus. Okay? Happy early birthday to you. Hopefully that's helpful. Let's see, we've got Marina. And Marina says 10/17/1990, 8:06 p.m. in Tarzana. Let's see, Gemini rising, Sun in Libra, Moon in Libra. I've had a rough year financially and in my love life. I have been considering cashing out my pension so I can feel more financially stable, just in case things don't turn around soon. Any advice or signs, good or bad? Well, thank you for your question. Well, my dear, all of these eclipses in Libra and the South Node in Libra represents a clearing for Libras. South Node on your Sun and your Mercury and your Venus looks like there's definitely been some job changes in your 6th house, some changes to your routine, job stability, feeling productive. Could have created some challenges also for your relationship to your daily routine or to other people in general, okay? Your money is more Mercury. And, from a whole sign perspective, the moon does have connections to your whole sign 2nd house. So like this eclipse that you just recently had on or near your moon and your Venus looks like October was like a real clearing out for you for finances and work. But that clearing out was a new moon. So it's also bringing new opportunities. So what will probably happen, I think, is you're going to find probably right around like February through May, there's going to be some bigger shifts in your professional life. But with finances, that South Node is coming for your moon. So to me, it seems like, until the South Node leaves your moon, you might be feeling until about February a sense of being a little bit more sensitive or feeling shorter on cash and more sensitive about your financial security. I will tell you, I'm not a financial advisor, but Mercury, which is your chart ruler, is about to turn retrograde in your 8th house of investment, savings, other people's money, banking. And when it turns retrograde, it's going to come into conjunction with Uranus. So it's going to be about like having a sudden change with work. So right around the time you're thinking about doing it, work might change. And it's about dipping into, funds that you have gotten previously from, employers. While it's in Capricorn, it is going to trine Jupiter. So it does seem to indicate that there can be some sense of like relief because you feel like you do have some financial support. But once it dips into Sagittarius, I'm not wild about some of the effects that it's going to have. Obviously, I'm sure if you're dipping into that early, there can be some financial repercussions. And so I look at like, Mercury retrograde conjunct Mars, where it can mean, okay, well, I can do it, but I'm conflicted about it, or, I'm going back and forth with, trying to kind of deal with getting my money out and whether or not I'm able to kind of work with the company or the bank that's issuing that. There can also be this sense of feeling like you're being rushed to make a change. And I would say be careful with that, because I don't want you to feel like you're rushing to do anything. Try to do it while Mercury is in Capricorn, I guess is what I'm getting at. So that's pretty much any time between now and the 21st, and that's right around the time we have the Cazimi, so it might mean where you're like, okay, I can actually tap into this money, and maybe you're taking something out, but the 8th house is also taxes, and it can be about fees and other things pertaining to, how you're going to have to pay that money back, or what the like fees are going to be for tapping into it early. That's kind of the way that I look at it. Now, when we get into February, March, all of these planets at the top part of your chart seem to be really aligning with your money planets and your work and daily routine planets. So I feel like it wouldn't be too long of a period of time before you get into the swing of things. I also think with Jupiter going into Gemini in this next year, it's going to give you an opportunity to have some kind of more faith, optimism, being more flexible, maybe juggling more than one thing. It can definitely give you a sense of being able to do more. And for Libras, I think about just in general, like Jupiter and Uranus being in the 8th house to the sun, it does represent tapping into other people's money or other people's resources. And so that's happening in your 12th house. So it might mean that, those finances or that money that's been put into the market can be greatly impacted or affected by global trends as well. So it's like, I look at it and I'm like, well, are you taking money out potentially before there's a lot of market volatility over the next, year? And is it worth getting money out before that happens? That's up to you. But generally overall for Libras, the financial stuff is pretty positive, because that Jupiter-Uranus conjunction building in the spring is going to be about having access to other people's resources, other people's money. So for you, I do think that it's going to be probably a good idea to really make sure this is what you want to do. If you do end up doing it, maybe it's about coming up with a plan so you could pay that back. It also might mean that you're still, in the process of looking for a job. And I do believe February and March, you could very well be quite busy with these, all of these planets kind of going into your Placidus 10th. Setting the stage for you to have a lot of harmonizing air trines that makes it possible for you to have work and kind of your finances figured out. While the South Node is in Libra, really until, the beginning of 2025, but it's directly impacting you until March. One thing I would say is a lot of this is about balance. This is about daily routine. This is about faith and practice and support from other people. So it's not just about you, it's about how you can go and connect with other people. So professional networking groups, unions, connection, collaborations, professional anything where you can go and connect with groups of people is going to help you grow when it comes to your sense of personal direction. Okay, so I'm hoping things get better for you. Definitely for that eclipse on your Venus and the South Node on your Venus and your Moon. Yeah, definitely little tricky there, but you're more so in the clear as you're getting closer to March of next year. Good luck. We have got Jasmine, and I believe she's the last one. Let's take a look. All right, so Jasmine was a Sinistry. She's May 27th, 92, 9:23 a.m. And the partner is 10/28/92. Let's see. (10:21 p.m.) There we go. Perfect. All right, so let's take a look here. We've got you as a Cancer rising, Sun in Gemini, and Moon in Aries, and then your partner, who is a Cancer rising, Sun in Scorpio, and it looks like their Moon is in Sagittarius. All right, so your question is, this is our info, are we the right fit? Well, let's take a look. So Synastry is basically laying the charts on top of each other and seeing what you guys have in common. Okay, so I like to start first with the person who's asking me, your chart is obviously on the inside, their chart is on the outside. One thing that I always look at first is the angles of a chart. And generally when planets are lining up with angles, it means that there's something significant that's influencing the Synastry chart. So your partner's got Mars on your ascendant, and this can be good for chemistry, passion, pushing forward, feeling some kind of, friction, but also it can be good for competitiveness, or it can be good for passion. Mars is in its fall in this particular sign. So on your ascendant, I'm wondering if it like brings out more emotions in you than usual. We've also got their Sun in Scorpio that trines your South Node. So it can be about a relationship of clearing some kind of karma or home or family, past life related themes. We have got their personal planets, the Moon, Venus, Mercury, and then also Pluto sitting in your 5th house of romance, creativity, passion, true love. So I love that Venus Moon in the 5th house. I feel like that's great for fun and for dating. And then their Saturn lays in your 7th house of commitment, and it does sextile Venus. The challenge that I would say is that together you guys create a full moon. You have Sun in Gemini and they have Moon in Sag. So there is this intensity between the 11th and the 5th house of what you need for love and romance and fun, what I need, and being able to kind of come together. This is a fun house to have a full moon in, this particular axis, because I think it can be about, celebrating and having a good time and friendships and socializing. So it's not a bad place to have it. But their Mercury is in opposition to your Mercury, so you speak a different language. Their Venus is in opposition to Venus. So you guys have different love languages and different ways of showing love. Yours might be more vocal and intellectual. Theirs might be more kind of fun and spontaneous. But both of you guys have mutable Venuses, so that's good. I just think that the way that you communicate and the way that you guys show love and affection is very different. And so I would just take that into consideration. However, you got an Aries moon, so that trine to their fire moon and their Venus, they like. It looks like even though they're a Scorpio, their Sag placements, let's see, trines their Chiron, and where is their Mars? Square moon and Mars. So the Mars square moon and Mars, do you feel like there is like a sense of like both parties kind of triggering each other? It's funny, Moon conjunct Mars makes me feel like kind of crabby. It's like having like a Mars in Cancer. So there is some emotional similarities between the two, I think, although his Mars trines Pluto. So I don't think it's always, being kind of touchy and sensitive. He can be kind of broody and kind of like moody, right? Sun, Pluto, Mercury all in Scorpio. Eclipses have been happening in opposition to his Sun too, so that can be about big changes in relationships. But I like the stellium in the 5th house. I don't think it's all that bad. I think it's the Mars square that'll get you guys. And that can be an issue. Oh, hey, Enchanted. Sorry, I didn't see that. Can you send it to me? I literally did not see it. Was it on this page or was it on the posted page? And then on the other hand, we've got his ascendant and his sun in the fourth house. He's got a fifth house stellium, so obviously like romance is like quite important to this person. Fun, dating, relationships. And your moon Mars sits at the top part of his chart, so he probably feels like you kind of boss him around a little bit. You kind of tell him what to do, and he may not like that because that's like a dominating energy. But it still trines all of this like Sagittarius stuff. So there's still an outlet as long as you guys are traveling, having fun, being spontaneous. I do wonder with your planets in Gemini falling in the 11th house if there is a sense of there being defined, something defined about the relationship. You know, I mean, it's like, well, are we friends or are we something more? What are we doing? That can be a really big theme in regards to this relationship. And I think that, you know, with your Saturn on the cusp of the 8th house and your Ceres and your Lilith, there seems to be this theme revolving around being like, he's tempted with relationship, but is he committing? And he's got, you know, Saturn in the 7th. So there is a lot of learning about relationship, you know, commitment and working through that, and relationships to friends, but also knowing the difference between relationships and friends, right? You always have all the answers. Scorpios are kind of snarky. You know, that's basically our general kind of go-to. One thing that I would say is that, you know, if you can work with this energy of the 11th house where there can be socializing, togetherness, friends, getting out, doing things, getting him out of the house because his sun is in the 4th house is possible. So your social skills can be really good for him. But Scorpios and Geminis, they have this like weird intoxicating attraction to each other, but sometimes it just like goes up in flames in my mind from what I've experienced. They quincunx each other. So, you know, there's a fascination with each other, but sometimes there can be way too much depth for, you know, for the Gemini. On the other hand, Scorpios can sometimes represent somebody who's afraid to like really open up. And so, you know, Geminis will be trying to communicate, trying to kind of crack that code, and they can eventually kind of get bored. But I don't think that this is somebody who's boring. So that's not really what I'm saying. I just feel like you're going to have to try really hard to get him outside of his comfort zone. And he's learning in this lifetime to graduate from just kind of having like playmates and things that are more kind of fun and maybe even sexual to what's going to be more serious, like long-term and committed, right? Your moon opposes his Jupiter as well. So I feel like there is this kind of like, with all these oppositions, kind of like tugging on each other, pulling on each other's pigtails, like really kind of like sometimes razzing each other and getting a rise out of one another, but doing it because it helps each other grow, if that makes sense. Watch for the retrograde that's going to be happening here. Cancer risings are making big changes in dating and relationships. Scorpios are doing that as well. Jupiter and Uranus is going to oppose his Pluto, so it does seem like there needs to be some shifts for him on the social front, you know, with friends and in connection to other people. And so maybe if we can get him, you know, into some habits where he's not super focused on just what he wants, also considering other people, the relating can be a little bit easier in my mind, right? But I love that you guys have like a bunch of 5th house stuff. You just got to keep that love and that like romance alive, you know? Anyway, I hope that that's helpful in giving you some insight. And, you know, when he gets feisty because he's got that Mars on your ascendant, you know, sometimes you just have to like grab him and give him a bear hug and just, you know, make him feel the love. So that way you guys are focusing more on the passion rather than the fighting. Hopefully that's helpful. What's up, Enchanted? I'm sorry I missed you. I genuinely did not see that, so I will add you to my list. Let's see. Wondering with the new, what is in store for me for this new moon? Okay, I got you. Well, let's look at it. So that's going to be the new moon in Sagittarius at 20 degrees. Technically in your 9th house. of travel, philosophy, education, belief systems. You know, as a Aries rising chart, I think about how Mars is going to hit this degree. So somewhere around the second part of the month, whatever intentions you were thinking about, when Mars hits 20, you're going to initiate. So make a mental note, probably of like the 22nd, 23rd, when Mars reactivates that point that you're like, okay, I'm doing it, I'm going. And I don't know what it's going to be. Are you pulling the trigger on traveling? Are you buying a course? Are you paying for advertising? Are you going to book a session with a teacher or a mentor? Are you learning about marketing or advertising? Looks like something like that's going to happen. And, you know, this particular new moon is going to trine the North Node in Aries. So Aries really benefit from this. It is about them being willing to expand their horizons, learning things, going places, experiencing stuff that is brand new to them and doing it on their own. A lot of it can be about self-development. It can also be about matters relating to learning more about your body, self-defense, being, you know, more independent. And it's going to trine, you know, planets that you have also in Leo. So I think it's really wonderful for like marketing strategies and self-promotion and trying to come up with like a campaign or like promoting services. I really like that for you. This particular new moon, if you didn't see my new moon video, I talk about how it will become a full moon next year. And when it becomes a full moon in Sag, the ruler, Jupiter, is going to be conjunct Venus at 29 degrees. So it'll be just after your Jupiter return. It'll be just after Jupiter and Venus conjunct. It'll be just after, you know, Uranus conjuncts your Jupiter. So there's some kind of significant financial growth that's going to be happening for you. Some investment that pays off, some new service that you have, better self-esteem, feeling more confident. Like, I almost wonder, is there a course or something that you're taking, something that you're learning where you're building on your skills and you're feeling more confident and you're also feeling like you can produce more, you can charge more, you have more clarity. And this can be about finances as well. It doesn't have to be about work, okay? So if you're following a financial advisor or a guru, or you're learning about financial markets or something like that, that's another way of looking at it. And I've said just generally for the Aries rising, and that is the general way that I do the readings. It's like we have to look at the global markets, what's going on globally. And if we can be in tune to what's going on in the world and what shifts are happening in the world, or where we're investing, or what new things are kind of up and coming, it can help us actually bring in more wealth and prosperity 6 months from now. So it's a really, really significant moon for manifesting. And when it finishes, it's going to be in your second house of personal, I think, self-esteem and productivity. And just money. I mean, it literally is it's about money and it's about resources. I also think that, you know, for you, the sextile to your sun is also about tapping into, like, you know, things that you need to be working on, things that you need to be kind of putting together. Yeah, technically it can be about friends and groups, and it can be with people in other places, but I think it's about you kind of going hard to work and working on stuff behind the scenes and like utilizing your intuition to figure out how you can do better work, right? If that makes sense. I knew something was up. Looking for clarity at this point. Well, clarity is a little hard during this Mercury retrograde because Mercury is in a square to Neptune. So we don't have a lot of clarity. We just need to have faith and optimism and be willing to kind of get out of our own way. The later degrees of Pisces, or the 12th house, is about self-undoing. So I look at Saturn and Neptune and I'm like, are you hiding? You know, are you afraid to put yourself out there? Do you not want to show your face? Are you afraid of being seen? Is there a sense of not wanting to step into the spotlight? You don't want to be noticed? Like, what's going on? Because Pluto's conjuncting your Mars, it's time for you to present yourself to a group of people or connect to powerful people. Pluto's still dancing with your Mercury, which means there's a lot of shifts going on revolving around how you look at your professional goals and the kind of work that you're wanting to do. It's a really psychic transit too with Pluto and Mercury, so that's a whole other reading. But Strategy comes to mind for me, and positioning yourself where you're connecting with groups of people, or you're building group relationships or networking relationships where you're more so tapped in and feeling better connected. And it could also be connecting with people who could, you know, give referrals to you as well. So it could be people who are in similar line of work who might refer back and forth to you. And then you got a Kazemi on your midheaven. I mean, hello. It's very clear you're reorganizing something about your professional stuff. And I would say use the new moon in Sag to gain insight and also be more positive and optimistic about how bright the future can be if you did decide to kind of put yourself out there and share what you've got. And there might be some kind of aha moment about what is actually changing this month and what you need to do to kind of reassert yourself and kind of get back in the game professionally, right? So that's really, really quite exciting. I'm excited to see how that manifests for you. You'll have to let me know. Like your transits are lit right now with Neptune coming up on your ascendant and Pluto on your Mars and Pluto square your moon. It's like you need community right now to go through this transition that you're kind of going through. So you want to find people who can kind of be working with you, you know? Hopefully that's helpful for you. Good luck. Big changes. Pluto on your south node in this next year too. So clearing out fear, I think. Fear of relationship entanglement, maybe. We'll see. Hopefully that was helpful. I think we got everybody, I believe. So if I missed anybody, I guess leave me a comment, but you might have to filter through this and make sure that I really missed you. I know I had a person or two that we're going to refund. They got in too late. But thank you guys for spending your Friday night with me. I appreciate it. I will be back here on Sunday. We're going to talk about the astral weather. We've got a really fortuitous Sun and Sag trine the North Node. We're kind of aligning with destiny. Some really great videos that are coming out in this next week. If you guys haven't already seen the new moon in Sagittarius, check it out. I did a video on that to give you guys some insight, and I talk about why it's so important for manifesting. So definitely use this to your benefit. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, and I will see all of you guys back here on Sunday. Take care.